Good evening. Today is Tuesday, June 17, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Will everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1, please.
Department number 1, Police. Brenda Perez, Police Chief.
Good evening, Chief. Good evening, Dr. Clarkson.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Councilors, Mayor Sullivan, CFO Clarkson. Thank you for your continued support of the Brockton Police Department. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our employees, our officers, our 911 call takers, our admin staff, and our cadets for their hard work and dedication to the department, the city, and its residents. I'd like to provide you with a quick overview of our department. In 2024, our officers answered approximately 98,000 calls for service. Approximately 75,000 of those were 911 calls. Currently, the Brockton Police Department has 184 sworn personnel, with 6 recruits in the academy as we speak. We expect them to graduate in September. Since 2020, the Brockton Police Department has hired 52 police officers, and by January 2026, we'll have hired an additional 15. The department continues to have walk-in beats in downtown, Campello and Montello, and bike beats at DW Field Park. Impact shifts, 1 part-time clinician, traffic enforcement shifts, traffic safety campaigns, pedestrian and bike safety campaigns, directed patrols, and zero-tolerance operations with the Mass State Police. Part 1 crimes between 2017 and 2024, all crimes are down. And since starting our cadet program, we've had incredible success, and I believe our cadets are working the way that we envision them working. Currently, we have 3 original cadets that are sworn Brockton police officers. We have 1 in the academy, and we have an additional 2 anticipated to go into the academy in August. And we're hiring for cadets. So if anybody knows anybody that would fit the criteria. The department has continued with our commitment to our city youth through our Shannon grant and through our partnerships with many organizations throughout the city. We provide for employment, summer and after-school programs, mentorships, and trauma-informed case management. Our junior cadet program and our youth academy programs are also part of Shannon. In just one way, we continue to reach out to our youth, providing them with a glimpse at what the policing profession is all about. The department relaunched its Citizens Police Academy. 20 residents participated in an 8-week program, 1 day a week, that gave them an opportunity to take a look at police operations, from policies, procedures, taser training, canine, and even a mock trial. The department is well on its way to becoming accredited with updating our policies and our procedures and providing services to the highest level of professionalism. We also have, in the last 2.5 years, undertaken the drug destruction project at the station and completed that in May of 2025. Basically put in for destruction approximately 15,000 pieces of drug evidence. So with that, if anybody has any questions.
Councilors, any questions for the Chief of Police? Councilor Griffin.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you very
evening.
much for coming in. I just want to thank you and your department for all the work you do for the city. My question for you is, I know the recruitment does seem to be improving a little bit. Could you just go a little bit more into that?
So we participated on numerous community events, career fairs. We also see the Junior Cadet Program in our Youth Academy as an avenue, and even now our Citizens Police Academy as an avenue, as a feeder program, just like our cadet program. And I believe that that has to do with some of our increased numbers.
That's great. That's great, Chief. That's all I have, Chief. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the work you and your men and women of the PD do for the city.
Thank you.
Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Chief, Mr. Claxon, Dr. Claxon. On page 385, I notice under purchase of services, there's been a reduction in a number of different categories. I'm guessing, but I want to confirm that that's because you have money set aside in that other account that will take care of the new public safety building when those 4 departments are merged. Is that an accurate representation?
Yes, Counselor.
All right, and the last question is, do we have sufficient funding in this budget, or is sufficient funding forthcoming for you to make the switch from 7 Commercial Street, all of the equipment, any equipment upgrades, whatever is needed as you basically vacate 7 Commercial Street and move to the new building? Do we have that covered by the original loan, a borrowing order, or is it in this budget?
I can answer that, Counselor, and good evening to you and to all of the councilors. The answer to the question is yes. Part of the budget for the project itself includes nearly $6 million in furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And so I meet weekly with my team and with the project manager to make sure that those bids are coming in within that allotted amount. But the 2 chiefs and the other 2 department heads have been intimately involved in selecting the furniture. In the case of the police chief and the fire chief, selecting the radios and the speakers. And so that's been a multi-month process. So all of those costs are included in and part of the overall construction budget, as is the moving costs. And so what you'll see in a few minutes under the public safety building budget is our best guess at what it will cost to actually operate the building once it's occupied. This coming year will be a bit of a hybrid because although much of the human infrastructure will move this summer, the police department in particular will, I think, phase the operations and the move depending on, and the chief is the expert here, not me, but moving evidence and things like that that take a little bit more care and oversight. So for FY26, we'll be in both buildings for a little bit, and then we'll have a year under our belt to understand what the operational costs are, and then for next year, we'll have a more definitive idea.
All right, and the last question, and we can see from, unfortunately, the tragic events in Minnesota that communication between law enforcement officers and agencies is critical. Are we replacing aging communications equipment, portable radios for the men and women of the police department? I know we're replacing cruisers, but where are we with that? Because to me, that's also critical to have a communication system that's adequate.
So a while ago, we have transferred to a digital infrastructure. We're in the process of transferring to a digital infrastructure, and our offices have digital radios as well as cruisers. So that's something that we actively have been working on, just like tasers.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minicello.
Good evening, Chief. Nice to see you. Just want to compliment you and the men and women of the Brockton Police Department. The city of Brockton, as we all know, is a very active city, and the men and women on this police force certainly have to be vigilant and have eyes in the back of their heads, and they do a great job here in the city. So I'd like to compliment you and them on that. Chief, what is the increase in medical consist of? It seems like it's a it's a jump of it's up to 269.3%, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. Could you just fill me in, I guess? Page 386, the very first item.
So that's our anticipated cost for medicals, for psychologicals, for medical, for any new hires.
Okay. And how about the use of, we were in the budget, would there be any technology with regard to like drones and things like that? Does the police force use drones at all?
We do. We have drones.
And, where in the budget would that be? I'm just curious.
Those were purchased already, I believe, through a grant, but I'd have to
Okay.
go check on that. There's only our maintenance, what we do for maintenance, but they were bought outright.
And how often and for what type of use does the force engage the use of a drone?
So we've used them, the most recent use of them, we used them at the high school graduation.
Okay.
We've used them for certain operations, so it really, they're versatile, and we use them depending on the need, so.
Are there any that are like sort of heat-seeking drones so that you can locate like a missing person or
We have them.
children or anything like that? I mean,
And we also have Project Lifesaver to assist us if we have somebody that, is Alzheimer's or dementia suffering from that. We also have that program, so.
okay. And I'm just going back a little bit in time. I remember that unfortunate situation at the park where the two little boys were went into the water.
Yes.
Could drones be utilized to try to locate, or in that sort of situation, where those kids might be? Can they, I guess, see the heat through water or a certain number of feet or anything like that? Or?
I'm not a drone expert, but that's something that I can look into as far as the capabilities within water for the drones that we have.
Okay, all right. Thank you. No further questions. Appreciate it, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Nicastro.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here. Your budget tonight represents some increases that I'm sure are important to the men and women who serve us in public safety. I would be remiss if I did not mention, and I received numerous calls today from residents. I have a lot of unhappy residents, and you know why. We've talked about this, and we went through this together on the weekend. My residents don't understand on a summer weekend when we can expect that there will be loud, long parties, why they're made to wait so long to address them. And various people answering the phone at the police give them various messages that don't make them feel like they're being heard, like their quality of life is appreciated. And so I want to say to you that I hope that in this new fiscal year, actually starting this week, more police will be on duty on the weekends to address the issues that come up in the neighborhoods that affect people's quality of life. Loud music. What happened off Copeland Street this past weekend was just so unfortunate and disappointing, and really, to some people, very outrageous, especially the people who live on Woodside Avenue. I ask you respectfully to do all that you can to help my residents and all of the residents of our fair city with these kinds of quality of life issues, because in light of these large budget increases, it is just very hard to square. It just is. And I would take any comments that you would make that, my neighbors and residents are listening to tonight.
Thank you, Counselor. So we take every complaint seriously, and we look into every complaint. And we are looking into that specific complaint. But that said, when we talk about the weekend, we do have additional impact shifts on the weekend to help, our rapid response vehicles.
Like to see based on, comments and requests and obviously people complaining about stuff, but hey, it is a city. We're going to have people complain no matter what. What I really hope to see in regard to, your budget is more traffic enforcement, which you and I talk about it, but I just want to state it publicly. And obviously, we have some crazy drivers out there. And at the end of the day, I know that, your numbers are limited. And obviously, you cannot have an officer, driving in every single street in the city at the same time. So in regard to our conversation, and I would hope that, with this budget increase, that I will see some people out there, doing their job. And I know they are doing their job, but I guess, especially some of the street that, I mentioned to you, because people do, it's a valid concern. Some people are assuming that they are driving on the highway and doing 60 and 50 and da-da-da, and I think it's totally unacceptable. And I believe that your men and women out there, they are trained, they are professionals, and they do have the ability to do their job. And I hope that, they will be able to do, some presence on the street. And sometimes all, somebody wants is somebody to be on the street. And once they see the police lights, that might somewhat, have them, slow down a little bit. Obviously, they might do it today, but they change it the next day. So, I really hope that we see that, and I know that, based on our conversation, I feel very confident in terms of what we discuss, and I wish you good luck with this, and if there's anything that I can do or we can do here in regard to that, I'll be more than happy to do this. The summer is coming up, we're going to have parties, people are going to call you, and especially with the diverse community that we are dealing with, and I know I spoke to you about this. Some people, I don't think they are doing it intentionally, they may not know, but I think if somebody goes there, somebody means if a police officer goes there and talk to them, there's a high possibility for them to turn it down. And sometimes that's a good way of approaching it, because, we got people from all over the world in here, and sometimes it might be acceptable, where we used to be, but it's not acceptable here. And I think the best course of action is not just going there as a bulldog, shut it down and call it a day, because these people live in our neighborhood, but go in there, talk to them, advising them, and da-da-da. Then, if they don't listen to you, you can take action. At the end of the day, we are one community, and we have an obligation to live together. Some people would like you to go there and shut it down, and sometimes that's not the best course of actions. Let's come together as a community, do what we have to do, and call it a day. I know, I talk to you, people are driving you crazy, and I'm going to put emphasis into this. Sometimes you better off going there, talk to the person who owns a house, and then have them put down the music, as opposed to going there and saying that we're done. And when you say you're done, it's a whole different problem, it's a whole different ball games, and da-da-da. So again, I wish you good luck, and thank you for this budget. Like I said, I don't want to go deep into it, but we'll see what happens from there. So I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chairman.
Councilor Rodriguez, followed by Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chief,
Good evening.
I have absolutely no problems with your budget. As a matter of fact, I wish we, as some councilors say here, I wish we had more money to give you. Because when you look at a department of 180-plus people, taking care of a city of 100,000-plus folks, I believe your men and women in the department do yeoman's work, and sometimes it goes unrecognized, because I honestly think that you guys are doing the work out there that most of us wouldn't do. And for that, I think you ought to give your folks a pat in the back for the work, for the job well done. And, we are a city, like I said, a city of 100,000 plus people. We should be at around, 250 or so in terms of personnel, as some of the other communities are. And I think if we had the 250 or so, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. But be as it may, that's the cards that we were dealt, and we got to play with them. But I just wanted to make sure that I share that with you. I actually have two little questions. It's not that big of a deal, but on page 385, right below overtime, you had last year some overtime that basically was for mayor's safety initiative. And then right below that, you had license enforcement. One, if you could just explain what those initiatives were, and two, how come we don't have any funds in there for them this year?
So the mayor's safety initiative was for the impact shifts. Those are still going on. working with the CFO and the mayor, those were just rolled into regular overtime. Those things are still happening, and the licensing is up for us to be able to go into establishments and, take a look at, enforce any issues there, or at least bring it to the
So
proper
you're still going to
channels.
do some of those things, so that's what I'm...
Yes, or no, we did not stop doing these things. The money was just put into one account.
Okay, all right,
Am I
well,
correct?
that's,
Yes.
that was my question, and Mr. Chairman, thank you much, and keep up the good work. Like Councilor Durancourt was saying, sometimes people complain about things that they don't understand. I hear people complaining about certain types of music because they don't understand it. They complain about certain types of food because they don't get it. And we live in a diverse community, and sometimes, having your men and women out there explaining some things to both sides, the folks, doing the music, and also those complaining about the music, I think they'll, will come to an understanding in the sense. It's not fair that folks in our communities are staying up to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because they can't sleep because of music. But at the same time, if there's some sort of a local reasonable celebration going on for a graduation or something like that, I think people would understand if there's a little communications going on back and forth in the sense. But at the same time, people do deserve to have some peace and tranquility in their neighborhoods. So thank you much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Chief, Mr.
Good evening.
CFO. Thank you. I'm going to echo some of my colleagues' comments. I also wish we had more money to give you. Thank you for all that your department does. I just have kind of a comment. The Citizens Police Academy was I've only heard positive, amazing things about it, and from my understanding, you're only going to offer it once a year. Is there any way we could do more? I think it just has such a positive effect on the community and the people that participate, and I think it just really makes them understand what, police officers actually, what the job is, or what, as adults, it kind of helps in the community. I think it's just a positive thing. Is there any way we could do a little more with that?
That's something I can look at, Counselor, but we're trying to balance the 2 sessions we do for the junior cadet program and then the 2 sessions in the spring and fall for the youth academy, and balancing those things along with the Citizens Police Academy. I would love to be able to have 2, but it takes a lot of planning and resources, and that's something that I can work towards. Right now, I think that 1 is where I'm comfortable, working from, just because we have all these other youth programs that we do.
Which are also very amazing programs.
So-
So we're grateful that you're offering them. No,
I
that's
would love to
understandable, but
have
it is a
2,
great program.
and I will work towards seeing if we can make that possible in the future.
Okay, well, it's great, and I commend you guys for doing it. I know we've been asking for years, and I think this session that you did was very, effective. I heard a lot of amazing comments, and people that participated were very happy, so thank you again.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Texiera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief. On page 385, on energy, Chief, FY25 was 51,000, and you went down to 28,000 this year. So you got a 45% approximately cut down on the energy. Why is that?
So that's part of the money that is going into the public safety budget, that reduction.
So that's gas and diesel. Is that for, yeah,
Correct, yes. I'll just concur, Counselor, with what the chief said. So in a few minutes, we'll review the public safety building budget. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's tough to estimate. We've talked to the project manager and tried to estimate what the costs are going to be in the new building. But when we get to that, you'll see we have electricity at $23,000 and gas, oil, and diesel, the energy at $18,000. So it's an estimate right now, but we have reduced the police department budget because that building will only be occupied a portion of the year, and we certainly hope to sell it next year.
Okay. And just want to comment on the Citizen Police Academy. I was there for 8 weeks. It was a great experience. The knowledge that I got from those 8 weeks, it was, the word doesn't describe it. And everyone should definitely see what the police does day in, day out. And before we complain, because it's easy to, but let's do it and see, the responsibility that the PD, the Brockton Police Department has. Keep us safe. It's about 110,000 people that lives in the city, plus with the 180 plus police officers that you have, just to keep us safe. The work that you guys do, it's amazing. A city on the Bedford has about 100,000 people. They got almost 300 police officers there swearing, and we understaff. But still, with the number that we work with, the job that you guys keep us safe. It's hard to be on every street or every call to be there, but the response is there. And whatever I can do on this side, you can count on me, and I'm here to continue to serve our police officers, continue to serve this city, and it's amazing what you guys do. I don't have a word to describe it, just to say thank you, Chief, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Counselor.
It's not going to be easy. Nothing's perfect, but you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tavares.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Good evening.
CFO, and thank you so much for being here. Actually, I'm just going to be kind of address the same thing my colleague Susan Castro said about the lot of complaints. I just don't want to repeat again, just to kind of give it a compliment, the same thing. I have a lot of issue. The residents sometimes call, say, take 2 hours, 1 hour, something else. And I appreciate it because you guys always work with me. Every time I text any of the guys, answer very quickly and try to help, as soon as possible. I know we short police officer, but in the meantime, the taxpayers complain, oh, the city feels not safe about it, just to let you know. I know you guys doing tremendous and good work, and you try your best on your power to do best you can, but I don't know how can we work with you or to try to improve, to see how can we get those addressed more quickly and, as soon as possible, because even myself personally, I witnessed many times it does take 2 hours, for them to show up. And then one time, actually, he witnessed that too. That's some most concern I have, and then I get a lot of calls. And as far as my ward too, I have a lot of concern about traffic issue, which you've been addressed so much, you're still doing it. And then I appreciate it for you guys keeping the work, because that's the complaint I get every day as far as you see my texts. I know you guys are always on top of it, but I totally, tremendously appreciate your good work. You've been doing your best you can. It's not easy. Of course, we're not going to be granted everybody to be happy. Of course not. But the most we try, be easy for us. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. That is the, no other councilors, no second round, so we'll move on.
Chairman, if I could-
sorry, please.
I just wanted to give a couple pieces of information relative to some of the comments here tonight. Councilor Farwell, the phase move to the public safety building is only going to be phased for Brockton Police Department. It will be 100% complete, meaning 7 Commercial will be offline by the holiday season. So by Christmas, by Hanukkah, 100% of the police department will be in the new public safety building. Another piece of information that was, and I want to thank the chief for her leadership, exceptional leadership, but one thing that the chief mentioned was the disposal of the drug paraphernalia. That was boxes and boxes and boxes of drugs that had been there for decades. And we were trying to contemplate bringing those over the new public safety building would have been just a waste of time and space. So the chief, to her credit, worked with all the partners, state police, and disposed of, and I couldn't believe the magnitude of so many The cadet program, big kudos to each and every one of you on the city council, because when myself and then Chief Manny Gomes came forward, you all supported it. And then when Brenda became the chief, she wanted to continue that process. And the proof is in the pudding. We're having boys and girls from Brockton that want to be, or at least interested in law enforcement, realizing that goal and already having the experience to hit the ground running when they get sworn officers. So I think that's phenomenal. The last thing is we are already planning on two different things. Fireworks this summer. The chief and I meet once a week, standing meeting in my office, and we have a meeting with Councilor Nacastro this Friday to talk about that situation in your ward. But the fireworks situation is already being contemplated, and we're going to minimize that the way we've done in the past. And then two last pieces of information. We're not sure if there's going to be any federal monies cut coming out of Washington, D.C. So we have a plan in place. It will not have a detrimental impact on the city of Brockton or the police department if we do get notification that some of the federal grants are cut. But as of now, we are not being notified. The only cut we've gotten from the city of Brockton is $124,000, which was the culvert on West Elm Street that we all knew about. And we'll just eat that 124 in our budget as well. The last thing was just to follow up on Councilor at-Large Rodriguez. In terms of making sure safety is a precaution, I'll give you an example. We have 3 congressional members coming to Brockton tomorrow. They're going to Massasoit Community College. It's an event over there at Massasoit. It's not an event sponsored by the city. It's at Massasoit in Brockton. But in light of the assassination and the uptick in violence against elected officials and the like, I called the chief, and she's already got additional police. Massasoit has their own police department, but we're going to have, just out of abundance of caution, additional police there as well. So I just want to let you know that Brenda, without question, is a hands-on chief, and she's a product of the Brockton Public Schools, which is even better. So I just wanted to share some of those informations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 2, please.
Police Animal Control Division, Brenda Perez, Police Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Long time no see. Thank you for the support of the Animal Control Department. I'd like to also take a moment to thank all of our animal control officers and our kennel worker for their hard work and dedication to all of us here in the city. And I'd like to take a quick moment to give a quick overview of the department. In 2024, Animal Control answered approximately 8,700 calls for service. They impounded approximately 260 animals and euthanized 11. In 2025, so far, they've answered approximately 2,900 calls for service, impounded 110, and euthanized 4. As you may all recall, our animal control officers successfully navigated the bird flu issues we had throughout the city, helping to divert the risk of any transmissions to other animals and the public. Animal Control Officer Parker received a scholarship to attend the New England Federal Humane Society Conference. And Animal Control Officers Joshua Parker and Walter Bertucci received the National Care and Control Association Training Certificate. Lastly, just 4 days ago, we received notification from the Best Friends Animal Society congratulating our city's Animal Control Department for achieving a 90% save rate for calendar year 2024, joining an elite group of organizations across the country, leading the way towards making us a no-kill nation by saving 90% or more of the animals in shelters. In acknowledgement for their efforts, Brockton Animal Control Department will soon be receiving a plaque for their outstanding work. Thank you. Any questions?
Councilor Nacastro.
Good evening again,
Good evening.
Chief. Thank you. I tried to send this question to Mr. Clarkson and to Tom DeGellis. It bounced back, so then I tried to send it to you, sir, and that bounced back too. So it's a simple question. On page 393 in the expense summary, the last line item is department equipment, and it is increasing from $1,000 to $9,000. What
Sure.
is that for?
That is for the replacement vest. So a couple years ago, we always receive federal funding for vests. A couple years ago, when we had when we went over the 100,000 residents, with the census, we no longer take priority. Though we apply every single year, we've been denied. It's either at least 3 times now. So where this would have been covered by those funds, that is no longer the case for Brockton Police, and so no longer the case for even animal control. So that's what that increase is.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, or actually Dr. Claxon, top of page 388, the objective, one of the objectives for animal control is to continue to work towards the funding and construction of a new animal control facility. They need a new facility, and we're not talking about a $98 million facility like the one on Warren Avenue, but it's long neglected, and some people might find it humorous, but actually, for many people, their pet is a member of the family. When that dog gets loose, or a bird gets loose, or our animal control people respond, they need a facility where we can take care of people's property adequately, safely. They need an environment in which they can work and conduct their business. So in the next year, I don't expect you to come up with funding immediately, but in the next year, can we do a needs assessment on what would a new building look like? How large would it have to be? Could it be at that current location? What would the cost be? Are there grant funds available? Are there some funds that we can find in the city that might be able to expand the current facility and bring that department up to a modern level? Because I do think it should be done. We should treat animals in the best possible way we can, to the extent that we can afford it. So I just wanted to enter that into the record tonight and ask for your cooperation. And then I want to ask the mayor and the chief. We have an inspector of animals who works for the health department now. And some of us have had a conversation about where should that position be, because they are called an inspector. To me, the most logical place to be would be with animal control. If you're an inspector of animals, if you had to seize animals, if you had to take some enforcement action, if there are seminars and training sessions available, it would seem logical it would go through animal control. It would probably take some collective bargaining through the law department because of the location of that position. But would the three of you take a look at that issue? And if you come up with a suggestion and it requires an ordinance change, we can certainly do it. Those of us who are fortunate enough to be here after January can introduce something, but I think that issue needs to be resolved.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. The first thing, we have done a needs assessment for a new location. We started that right when I became mayor. It was put on pause because of the pandemic. We looked at 3 different scenarios. Number 1 was to acquire the, I'm not going to say the right thing, but the animal shelter off of West Elm Extension. They were not interested in selling it to us. They want to keep operating there as well. Tom DeCellis thought that was a brilliant location. The next one was to do a renovation addition to the existing location. That does not look like that was going to be feasible because of the condition of that building, the age, the scope, the geographic, the water behind there, abutting the cemetery. And the last one was to do either a build or an acquisition of a newly constructed building. We pinpoint that, and then the deficit came to light on the school side, so we paused that. I concur with you. I think we owe it to not just the people that work there each and every day, but the Brocktonians that go there for their animals. So I concur with you on that. I can't promise you that before I finish my term we'll get it done, but I'll work hard to get the train down the track for the next mayor. In terms of the animal inspector being put in, I'm not opposed to that at all. It would be a collective bargaining. It was my understanding that statutorily it was supposed to be under the Board of Health, but we're changing the Board of Health to a health commission, so I don't know if that's going to change it, but I will work on that with the esteemed city solicitor on that.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Minicello.
Hi, Chief, once again. I would just like to give a compliment to the Animal Control Department and point out their value. They're called on many occasions to assist law enforcement in situations where there is a vicious dog or vicious animal that some people are using as a weapon or as a guard dog because of some nefarious activity that might be going on. So, I mean, they do put themselves on many occasions in dangerous situations with some dogs that are very, vicious. And I've also seen firsthand a dog that was injured that could have, because of its injury and the pain that it was experiencing, turned vicious. But the manner in which I saw this animal control officer care for this injured animal, it was poetic, really. It was like, wow, this person really cares about animals. And the gentle way that they handled this animal, it could have gone bad, but it didn't. So I just wanted to point out that a lot of these people that work for animal control are really doing a great job for the city. And sometimes it's no joke in terms of what they come across, This is not a community where we don't see its share of, I know people are going to get mad at me, but, some pit bulls, the way some people don't train them properly can turn out, unfortunately, to be dangerous. And you see a lot of these types of more aggressive breeds in the city as opposed to other communities. And, the animal control has to deal with it. And then, of course, occasionally we get an occasional alligator or crocodile up at the park that if it's alive, they're going to deal with it too. But they do a good job, and I just wanted to give them some credit and acknowledge them. So,
Thank you.
There are crocodiles in the park?
Hey, we've had that. We've had that. They've been frozen. Some people they'll have an exotic pet, and they'll get rid of their exotic pet when it gets a little bit too big. And we have had, I believe, at the park we've had. There was a small crocs or small alligators that were frozen, but yes.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll have these people with these exotic snakes and things. When they get a little out of control or a little too expensive to handle, they let them go. And animal control's got to deal with it, and they sometimes do deal with it. But yes, there was. On the record, I believe that there were crocodiles, a couple of at the park. Absolutely.
Right. Noted.
For the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Minicello. Councilor Davenport, you had a question?
Yeah, not a question,
Go ahead,
just a
please.
comment. In regard to, this subject, so in 2019, I took some time to went there and toured the facility, which we're talking about now, and it wasn't that great, I have to put it this way. Obviously, the mayor acknowledged it, you acknowledge it, and some people may not think it is necessary, but like my colleagues, stated, the pets are part of our families, and I think that we have to do everything that we can possibly do, to create an environment whereby they feel comfortable too. So I just want to acknowledge, publicly my support in regard to looking into a space whereby we can actually, if we cannot fix that location, but looking somewhere else. So I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, councilors, that will be the end of animal control. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, please.
Item 3, Police Public Safety Division. Brenda Perez, Police Chief.
Again, good evening, Chief Perez.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
I don't have a statement for this. This is a new budget, so any questions?
Councilors, any questions? Councilor Castro.
And good evening again. On page 397, under the expense summary, the last line item, other contract services, $120,000. What is that for?
So this is for an on-call business maintenance services and custodial services, and this was based on estimates of what we currently pay, but that could be subject to change as we move forward into next year, where we have a better understanding.
And that's for the entire building, since you're in charge of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to follow on from that, Councilor, to give you some texture, I've been meeting regularly with the 4 department heads to try to plan this budget and to plan adequately to make sure we had enough funds on hand to operate it once it's open. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, some of this is guesswork until we're actually in the building. But as the chief mentioned, one of the things we did is we looked at currently, the police station is cleaned through a custodial contract. So we looked at what that cost. This new building is much larger, obviously. It will encompass space for the EOC, IT, and for the fire space that is not cleaned by the inhabitants. So we're taking on a greater amount of square footage, which is why we estimate a larger amount. As we get through the fiscal year and we occupy the building, we'll have a much better idea of the actual costs.
That sounds reasonable. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Darrencourt.
Council, if I could, Mr. President, just to follow up on that, the City of Brockton's employees are going to be doing the landscaping, the plowing, the salting, the raking of the leaves. The Peace Garden is going to be maintained in-house as well. The only thing we're contemplating right now, and Troy said it last night during his opening, we need a year to see exactly what it's going to mean in terms of the fire department. The members clean up their own, as Troy just said, but we are, just to let you know, we are going to try to do cost containment measures and anything we can do in-house. But this year, we believe, because of the square footage and because it's brand new and it's under warranties as well, this is the right way to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it is excellent that the mayor actually touched upon what I was going to ask in regard to what happening outside of the building. But in the spirit of this great acknowledgement, I'm going to ask the chief, prior to that, collaboration between the fire, the chief, BEMA, and the IT department, does the Brockton Police Department have somebody that just cleaned there?
Yes.
Okay, so now what's going to happen to that? Is it one person or a group of people?
It's a company, I believe, employs 2 people.
Okay, that's a company. And the mayor, if I may, does the fire department have the same thing too?
They do not, Councilor.
So,
They clean it in-house by their
they do it themselves?
employees. Yes.
And that would be, I'm assuming, obviously the War Memorial where BEMA is, we clean it. We mean the city clean it, right?
Correct.
And then IT department, they clean
IT is active because it's currently at Brockton High, gets cleaned by the custodial staff at Brockton High School, so
Okay.
we'll be taking that on.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, I think this is an excellent idea, given the fact that you guys are actually having, a company doing it, because, this is not a small building, and it will require a lot of help, and I think this is very interesting, having, one company doing all of this. So I was very concerned about what would happen to that person that used to be at Brockton Police Department, but it's funny to know that it wasn't us, it was somebody else doing it.
That's correct.
So it was more concerned about whether or not that person, because I know you combine a bunch of custodial services from the library and whatsoever. So I was more concerning about this, but I'm happy to hear that there will be a company to take over that building, because it's not something that 1 or 2 people can actually do, because that's a lot of work. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
like
you.
I said,
Thank
you
you,
comment
Councilor.
on my questions, and appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, Traffic Commission, Captain Mark Porcaro, Chairperson.
Cap, how you doing? Good to see you.
Captain Picaro, good evening.
Captain Mark Macaro, Brockton Police and Traffic Commission. For the most part, with the exception of one item, it's a level-funded budget. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilors, any questions? Councilor Griffin.
Good evening, Captain. Thank
Good
you
evening,
for coming
sir.
in. I looked at your budget. I think it's perfectly appropriate. Again, it's one department I'd like to give more money to. I want to thank you for all the help you've given me my first term in Ward 3. You've helped me on Copeland Street, you've helped me on Linwood Street, Burroughs Ave. It seems to go on and on. You're always accessible. I make one call to you, it gets taken care of, and I just want to thank you very much for that. And I know the residents want to thank you for that also, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minicello.
I would like to second that. With regard to Ward 1, Captain Picaro, whenever I call you, and there's an issue with regard to speeding and traffic and complaints with regard to trucks or anything like that, you're always willing to get involved, and you've always helped. Just like Councilor Griffin, I thank you very much for your participation in the program with regard to Traffic Commission, and we have the right person, and I just want to compliment you on your ability and what you do every day for us. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will third that. Thank you for everything that you do, and, the Traffic Commission gets the majority of our complaints, traffic complaints, so thank you, you're very responsive, and you've been there for a number of years since, so thank you for all you do.
Great, thank you so much, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, Counselor. Counselor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening, sir.
I don't have any questions for you. If I have any, I'll get you at the next meeting. But I do have something for the CFO, Dr. Clarkson. The Traffic Commission budget is level funded except for a $50,000 reduction in the lines and signs budget. Lines and signs are a significant part of the role of the commission. Putting up signage to try and improve the safety or help direct motorists through the city and help protect pedestrians. And the lining every year affects every street in the entire city. Fog lines, lines down the center of the road, intersections, stop lines, things like that. It is a large part, that and guardrails are a large part of what the department does, and it's sort of a role that's out on its own in its authority and responsibility. So the budget is what the budget is. The city council can't add. We can only, approve or reduct. But I would put the thought in your head that at some point in time the commission may come back for a transfer if it continues to operate the way it's been operating with the requests from constituents that it has received. So I wanted to just make sure that you were aware of that, I would not recommend to the commission that they in any way slow down or limit any work to improve the safety of an intersection based on what they have with the budget, and that they instead request a transfer, and I'd be happy to sponsor that, and I would support that when it comes, but I just wanted to put that on your radar. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Tavares.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening for being here.
Good evening, Counselor.
Yes, thank you. And just to compliment and thank you for your service. And as an awarded too, I'm always have a tremendous trouble with the, traffic issue. Personally, you guys have been doing such a great work with me. But as right now, the most concern I have in Edgar Park, all the neighbors basically is on me right now. And then I do appreciate it sometimes when they send you guys complaint, if you guys do follow up, because most of the time I take a complaint by writing or text, and then I add the phone number, the person does complain, but with the phone number. If you guys does follow up with those numbers, that'll help us better, just to see we on top that. That can make them say, okay, yeah, Maria's on it, you guys can delegate. It facilitates us to be easier for us. But I do appreciate if you guys be on top of that, because that is driving me insane. And the second street is the Brockton Street. I have tons of complaints as well. Those two streets, if you focus, I'd be more than appreciated. Edgar is the worst, Edgar Park.
Sure,
And then thank
absolutely.
you. Please, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Sure,
Personally.
Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor. Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Counselor.
I just want to echo what they said, because I wrote to you this morning, Captain Vaccaro, about the same issue with the reduction in your budget, and I would support or do anything I can. I know how busy you are with lines and signs. So if it comes in the future, I'll do all I can to help you.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. No further questions on this line item or this budget item. We'll move on to the next one. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Item 5, elections. Director Cynthia Ravani, Executive Director.
Director Scavani, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman and councilors. Thanks for having me. Thank you for your continued support. And I also want to thank my staff for the hard work they do and their ability to work together as a team. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councilor Minicello.
Hi there, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
I have no problems with your budget. In fact, I think it might be a little there might be a little bit of a reduction. But your office runs efficiently. You do a great job, and your staff does a great job. So I just wanted to say that to you.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
On a separate note, if anyone was wondering what was going on up here, we just had proof that there was sightings of alligators at DW Field Park in an old Enterprise article. So I just want that noted for the record, please. Thank you. Thank you.
It's officially documented.
Thank you.
You got me on that.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilors, anyone else? Seeing none, thank you, Director Scavani. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Nice job.
Agenda item number 6.
Item 6, Parking Authority, Eric Atkinson, Executive Director.
Director Atkinson, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the committee. I just wanted to highlight a couple things from this past year and what we're expecting in the coming year. Our biggest highlight of this year was finally doing the implementation of the new park system in the Adams and the Carpenter garages, making that process for our customers and our staff so much easier. As far as our highlights for fiscal 26, the Adams garage is going to be a main focus. There are many issues with that garage that need to be addressed. We actually were awarded a HUD grant in the amount of $850,000 that we're going through the process now of the environmental study. We've submitted our work plan and our budget. It's being reviewed by the HUD people now. Once that's finally approved, then we can start spending that money, and we have a list of projects that we're going to be doing included under that. So with that said, I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Councilor Farwell.
Good evening, Eric. Councilor Lally and Councilor Azak and I have gone to a number of meetings, and I think you were at the recent Montello Business Association meeting. And I have to tell you, in the coming year, as we implement this budget, I think we need to look at our overall philosophy and approach to parking, because parking is actually public safety. It's public safety in terms of making sure that fire apparatus can get down streets, they can park near a hydrant if they need to. It has economic development implications, because if people are parked all day long in a 2-hour parking zone and we don't have enforcement people who can go out and take care of that, then it's going to perpetuate the police department. Yes, officers can give out parking tickets. I certainly did when I was there, but times have changed. The demands for police services now are so acute that it's hard to have a cruiser team or a cruiser take an area and give out parking tickets. So I think we're losing an opportunity to enhance public safety. I think we're losing an opportunity to enhance economic development. I know we're losing track of a lot of different violations that I think legitimately could be enforced. I don't know whether the authority should look at expanding the scope of responsibility for our parking control officers, or whether we need more. But I think it's worthy of a study, because we are a large city. We do have significant traffic issues. These issues have been raised repeatedly, and I know Councilor Azak and I are interested in what is going on up in North Main Street with people parking all day in a 2-hour zone. So I just throw that out there to you. And the other thing I'd like you to think about, the Traffic Commission recently approved a handicapped parking place. But one would think that would be the parking authority. And I'm not sure this city shouldn't grasp the concept of having a parking and traffic commission. You would have one regulatory board. You'd still have perhaps the captain as the chair. But to have two different bodies who should integrate whatever they do in terms of parking and public safety and controls, it just seems to me in the year 2025, that's not perhaps the best way to go, but I'd want to study it. I'd want to give it some study. I think other cities do have a traffic and parking commission, so that you have that one regulatory board, and then you have some comprehensive rules and regulations. But it just seemed crazy to me that the Traffic Commission would be hearing a request for a reserved parking place, I think it was on Silver Road, but that's a parking issue. That's not a speed control. That's not a stop sign. That's not lane markings. It's to put up 2 signs saying reserved parking handicapped, and why wouldn't that have come before the parking authority? So I know there's enabling legislation that created both entities, the Brockton Parking Authority and the Traffic Commission. But somewhere along the line, and I know, Mr. Mayor, you only have 6 months left, and I'm not trying to add to your bucket list, but the discussion should be had. I think there's a better way of doing things. We could have that one regulatory board where developers, engineers, people who want to come into the city, put up a new building, they could go to one meeting, have everything in terms of traffic and parking decided upon, approved. In terms of permitting and licensing, it might save time and money. So those 2 things I just would like you to think about. I don't need a commitment tonight, but as we implement this budget, I think over the next year, what can we do? But what are we doing well, but what can we do better? And I think the Traffic Commission and the Parking Authority should ask themselves that. What are we doing well? What can we leave alone? But where can we make improvements? So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, anyone else? Seeing none, if I may just ask one quick question. On that HUD grant, you said that you applied for it. Have we received it or no?
We have not received the cash in hand. We're going through the process to get it finally approved. But it's been awarded. We've done the budget. We've done the work plan. Now they're reviewing it.
And you would have to come before the council to accept that grant, is that correct?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. Then I look forward to that discussion.
I do too.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Director. Have a good evening. Agenda item number 7, please.
Item 7, Law Department, Megan Bridges, City Solicitor.
Good evening, Madam Solicitor.
Hello, Mr. President. I have a few prepared remarks, and then certainly I take any questions that you might have.
The floor is yours.
Good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor, members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about the Law Department's FY26 budget and the work of the dedicated legal team that I'm fortunate to lead, one of whom is here with me. Attorney Verdi is in the gallery. The Law Department's mission is simple but critical: to defend the city of Brockton. And whether that means protecting taxpayers in litigation, negotiating collective bargaining agreements, or guiding departments through complexities of regulation, I'm proud to say that over not just this past fiscal year, but the few that I've been fortunate to be in the department, that our small but skilled team has delivered exceptional results. We've resolved numerous matters favorably, some initiated by the city and some brought by others. We draft ordinances, special acts, contracts, provide formal legal opinions, support departments at public meetings, and advise on everything from civil rights to labor law. Also, we are a plaintiff in certain class action matters related to PFAS, insulin, opioid, Altria and Juul electronic cigarettes, and social media, as related to negligence in minors. Behind the scenes, and these successes, is a lean team of 10 people. 5 assistant city solicitors, 1 paralegal, and 2 administrative assistants. Each of them shows daily dedication, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to public service. I consider it a privilege to lead such a hardworking and principled department. I know you all don't often interact with all of the members of my team, but it's really important to me to make sure that they get the credit they deserve. As we look at FY26, the Law Department's proposed budget is in short excess of $7 million, and it's a 13.4% increase over the prior year. I'm here to explain that increase clearly and directly. On page 321, first, we are proactively managing legal risk. We've significantly increased projected out-of-court settlements for a very specific reason. The city of Brockton has host community agreements with a dozen or so marijuana establishments. There's been significant change in the law in reliance on what's called community impact payments, as distinct from taxes made from marijuana establishments. Of the dozen or so establishments that offer brick and mortar retail services to the city of Brockton, we negotiated new HCA's without paying a single cent, and for most of them, the city got paid for uncaptured HCA's. What you see in the increase in goods and supplies is technically for out-of-court settlements, and it's to fund a 5-year settlement agreement with the owner of In Good Health related to the return of community impact payments. This year's funding, it's $300,000 for 5 years, is the settlement agreement that in good faith the city has reached and is requesting that you all fund. So I'm happy to take the questions, but I'd like to explain the budget first, if that's okay. So that's where the largest increase in the budget comes. Second, as I'm sure other folks have already commented on, the purchase of service looks like it's increased, but that was the restoration of consultant money to the department's budget and contract services. Third, I've been here before you talking about property insurance premiums previously. That's the third largest increase in reflecting simply market-wide adjustments. Our team is excellent that we utilize. You've heard me talk on them before. Happy to answer any questions about the city's insurance coverage. And we've also investing in technology training and legal resources. This budget allows us to continue to modernize the citywide legal infrastructure. And in one example of that is in code enforcement. And through the expansion of the legal department, there's been, and the development of ISD, there's been substantial code enforcement litigation where the city has recovered revenue from code enforcement violations that are often settled but sometimes litigated. We've opened or resolved over 220 legal matters, review and advise on more than 60 contracts, over 110 public records requests, and we provided training and counsel to nearly every department in the city. This is the kind of output that you want from a focused, collaborative, and mission-driven team. I cannot emphasize enough how proud I am to lead this department. They are among the most dedicated public servants I've ever worked with. So this is an investment not just in legal services, it's an investment in protecting the city's integrity, its fiscal health, and its future. And I ask for your support in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Solicitor. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Solicitor, I do have a couple of questions, but before I ask them, I want to say to you and your entire staff that we are so fortunate to have all of you. And to have someone like you and the other attorneys who not only have the legal acumen, but they have a moral and ethical compass. And, you know, in government, a moral and ethical compass is often lacking. And how many times have I called you and you've reminded me that, well, I'm also a resident. And so you kind of take that very seriously. And when people look back on the history of this city, the fact that you called in a law firm with absolutely no prior relationship with Brockton to conduct that school department deficit, Nystrom, Beckman, and Paris, if I have the report right. It was expensive, but it was probably one of the very best reports that I think any city has ever seen written about a particular issue that needed that type of analysis. I only wish more people would read it, and I only wish more people would take responsibility for what's in it. And I am so proud that you did what you did. And, you know, in some communities, the mayor and the law department would have gotten together and figured out, well, you know, we got to sweep this under the rug. This could look very bad. This might not be what we want to do. We don't want to uncover what happened. But both of you didn't do that. Both of you literally called in the fire on your own position to find out what went on in this city why it happened and how we can prevent it from occurring again. And so I wanted to start off this evening by saying to you and Attorney Verdi, who's here, and everyone else, for all of the phone calls that you took, thank you. I'm sure there'll be more. You collaborated on ordinances that were being written. You worked with our legislative council on matters, and that's why we have a successful law department.
Thank you.
That's particularly why we do. So, property insurance. I should probably know this after all these years. I see that it is up $400,000 from last year. What do we cover? Do we cover all municipal buildings, including schools? Do we cover contents? Do we cover personal injuries? Tell me a little bit about what we get for that $2.1 million.
Thank you for the initial comments. I'd also like to, in the vein of the initial comments and in response to your question, extend gratitude to Troy for his role in both the investigation, supporting it, being a part of it, and I think that's just natural. We work together very closely. The mayor, the CFO, and myself on a lot of endeavors, one of which is insurance. So this might be a collaborative answer to the question. But the city has insurance policies related to automobiles, buildings, the physical buildings themselves, the content coverage, some building loss coverage. For example, you just heard from the parking director. So if they were unable to collect revenue, that is part of our policy. We have policies related to the Parks Commission and cemetery equipment, the DPW equipment. That's the general nature. We don't have general liability coverage, no. We are self-insured for workers' comp, we are self-insured for health insurance, we are self-insured for general premise liability.
And I assume for alleged civil rights violations, federal cases, we're self-insured?
Yes, we are. And I mean, my office has been exemplary in defending those types of actions that we used to pay a lot of money for, but it's a self-insured risk, yes.
If you know, would it be very expensive to have a professional liability policy cover the city and its officers and agents?
You know, that's a question we bounce oftentimes. Like another example is workers' comp, should we get coverage? I think the simplest answer, although I would certainly defer to Chris Shepard and Troy, is it's very hard for an actuary to define our risk for underwriters to write a policy. It would almost be cost prohibitive because we're such a large organization. That's my best understanding of the situation. There is umbrella coverage, there is catastrophic and extra coverage we can get, but we self-mitigate and manage the risk, I would say, more than fairly decently.
Okay, well, on another evening, I'll have a resolve to have you come in and talk a little bit about some of the cases that you're handling for us. I know, I think Attorney Verdi sent me information about the legal action we have against the prior occupant of the Rock Stadium, which will probably come up when Mr. Plouffe is here. But thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your friendship and professional relationship and for all the information that you've given to me. It certainly has made my job more effective, and I hope that has translated down into helping out the residents of the city. So,
thank you.
My appreciation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minichiello.
I agree with Councilor Farwell's comments. I think the city is very fortunate to have you in charge of the law department, and you have a great team, including Attorney Verdi, who I've dealt with on some occasions, as well as some of your other the city solicitors. I think, integrity, competence describe both you and your staff. Obviously, we don't like seeing increases, but your explanations are certainly understood, and you just carry yourself in a way that is very, very professional. And we've seen you. This council has seen you brief them on many issues, and we can rely on what you say, and what you tell us is accurate and truthful. So much appreciation, and keep doing the great job that you're doing, and make sure your staff knows that how this counselor feels about you, and certainly Counselor Farwell. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Solicitor, I want to go back to something that Council Farwell just said when it comes to general liability. There's quite a few communities in Massachusetts that have general liability for a variety of lawsuits that are brought against those municipalities.
They do.
You said that they're cost prohibitive in terms of getting those insurances. Have we done some research to find out, because although you might say that they're cost prohibitive, but it seems that every single meeting that we have, we are here moving some funds to settle some sort of a lawsuit. I mean, you just talked about a lawsuit that was brought against the city by In Good Health, when in fact, in my layman's opinion, the city didn't do anything wrong. What the city did was what the state was allowing to do. So why is that a liability to the city when in fact the state, if the state screwed up based on their laws, why is the city liable for something that the state had to do with?
Two great questions. In the first question, we're more than happy to explore. Maya is the writer for cities and towns. They're the insurance company. I am sure that Troy has worked in other communities, and possibly the mayor, that have had insurance through Maya. We will happily try and get a quote from them. But the more real response to your question is, I have a list in front of me of all the monies that have come from the court judgments line item this year. With the exception of a sewer damage claim that we took all the way to a jury because they wouldn't take a reasonable offer of settlement, none of the other claims would be covered under a general liability policy. The marijuana one, for example, which I'm happy to talk about that specifically, but that type of activity would not be covered under a general liability policy. And the other settlements I had were a breach of contract, not negligence. In other words, not negligence. Negligence is what's covered under a general liability policy. So I had a contract settlement that we paid out on. I had a two civil rights violations, 3 civil rights violations, 4 civil rights violations, a handful of workers' comp cases, 5 civil rights violations, 6 civil rights violations, and the sewer backup claim that I just told you about. So that is the universe of monies that the city has paid. So part of the answer to your question is, we haven't paid out enough to justify a policy on general liability claims. Civil rights violations, I mean, that was the majority of the claims that we've paid out on. Those were the ones I just described to you. The majority, with the exception of one of them, which I came to you all about, that you funded for $150,000, the majority of those settlements, $30,000, $25,000, $8,000, $17,500, wouldn't have hit a deductible. But we're always happy to continue the conversation. I focus the efforts on efficient resolution. And this kind of is a great transition to your second question about marijuana. I don't necessarily philosophically or personally disagree with you at all on the premise that the state did a bait and switch on marijuana. Absolutely not do I disagree with you. And those were the words out of my mouth to the owner of In Good Health. The problem that occurred here was the city has certain responsibilities on its end to document the impacts related to marijuana. And those records were lacking.
By whom?
I would say it's a general citywide obligation. Because it has been litigated already, that you have to substantiate the impacts. And they can't be garden variety or general. They have to be specific. And that's what occurred in a lot of places that return the money. But I want to highlight something here. I wish I had the actual figures, but I think we have 8 retail operators, and we're talking about paying 1.
Well, when will the other ones come knocking on the door for the same thing?
I settled with all of them, and they paid us with the exception of one.
They paid the city.
They did, because the one that we're settling with was open the longest and paid the most to the city. All of the other ones, with the exception of one, paid us.
But when you're paying this one organization $300,000 a year for the next 3 years, it's substantial.
It is substantial. We would have had to send it out to litigate it. This isn't something my staff could have litigated. The subject matter is too specific. So that's another consideration in the cost, too. I mean, this was the best decision that made the most sense for the city.
But what about the Cannabis Commission in the sense, or the folks at the state whose responsibility was to deal with this marijuana issue? Where are their liability when it comes to this particular thing?
I wish I had a better answer. The state general court legislative body, did two things. It changed the law on marijuana in the middle of local regulation. That occurred, and that really disrupted things for everybody. There was never a clear direction. And then 2 years ago, a court decided community impact payments have to be substantiated. They're not just able to be collected like taxes. They're distinct from taxes. And so that, it left everybody in a really disappointing position. There is no two ways about it. It left everybody in a really disappointing position.
And how are the other communities that basically were in the same situation as we are? Are they facing the same types of liabilities coming back to their communities?
So I can tell you only what I know, but I'm happy to research anything else you'd like to know. The city of Boston returned every single cent to every operator that it had I think it was a stabilization account, don't quote me on the special revenue accounting, but, and other communities did what we are doing, trying to negotiate the best we can. Another community simply paid. Most folks aren't fighting it. And I'll get you the Boston Business Journal article, and I think it was Salem. They got 78 cents on their dollar. This is approximately 50.
So when the marijuana law first came to fruition, and I kind of know that because we spent a great deal of time putting together the ordinance for our city, and the one good thing that we had on our side was the fact that the city was going to make around 3% of what their gross sales were coming back into the community. Now, if that doesn't exist anymore.
It does in taxes. There's three sources, or there was two sources.
But also the whole thing with the host community and all that other stuff that was basically signed, it was one incentive for the communities to go along with this marijuana stuff. Because a lot of us, people in this community, would have not have voted for or been advocates of the program knowing that the community wasn't going to benefit as much from it as we are. Because we're getting the side effects of the marijuana law, but yet the financial side is not what we thought it was going to be. And this is what I actually have a real problem with the state, basically kind of washing their hands and saying, we're the state, we don't have to worry about this. When the law was passed by the state, the regulations were set forth by the state, and yet they're going to pull back and say, well, the cities and towns, you guys have to figure out how this process is going to go. And what remedies do we have? Can we go after the state for some of the damages?
The law has always required municipalities to record their impacts. And that is the answer to your macro question. Why are we paying this money? We cannot substantiate the impacts. There has been no record of substantiating the impacts from the 8, establishments or so that operate.
Well, I think, all one needs to do is maybe go under one of these bridges down here and see some of the impacts that we're actually facing on some folks that come into the communities to use and buy locally and stay locally. So I think we got to do a better job in doing the things that we need to do to document the impact in our community, because I can't see it not impacting our community.
I personally do not disagree.
But who's going to, honestly,
I guess
Madam
an example.
Who's going to do that? I mean,
that would
the idea I understand the other day, we were asking things about vacant properties. We don't know exactly what it is, we'll figure this stuff out. whose job is it to make sure that the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted when it comes to this stuff? There's got to be somebody. We can't say it's 110,000 residents of Brockton. There's got to be either a department or an individual that needs to do that.
So that's the city, well, the city records don't demonstrate any response, restraint, or otherwise felt by the city related to just the brick and mortar establishments. That's what the impact fee is related to. I'm not suggesting to you that we don't have an opioid problem, that there is not a substance use and abuse epidemic that is touching all of us in a lot of ways. What the law related to marijuana establishments says is you have to substantiate community impacts from the establishments. And there might have been some really impactful, tangible things that occurred when we had to initially regulate for marijuana. It took a lot of everybody's time. It took a lot of coordination. It took a lot of strategizing. It took a lot to develop the regulations. But those costs don't have a value in FY25. And there aren't, to my knowledge, and we asked, police calls related to the establishments. There isn't traffic concerns related to the establishments. I mean, these are the types of questions that I think support the need for the impact that is not evidenced in city records. So I don't know if it's anyone's responsibility, and it might be okay to say that there actually isn't a negative impact occurring. I mean, that's another, response just from the brick and mortar establishments where you can go in and purchase marijuana. To that regard, the city in this fiscal year got over $1.3 million in the tax payments related to those operations. So it's not as though there's no revenue actualized. It's that an absolute bait and switch happened. I do not disagree with you at all. I can't answer for it.
Madam Solicitor, why can't we not go after the state? I mean, at least take a stand. Brockton we used to be a lot of firsts in the past. We took on the Department of Education, we took on a variety of other things, but to me, just caving because, here's the bill, $300,000. $300,000 could put a lot of teachers and a lot of cops to work. So my whole thing is, why not go after the state for the mere fact that what you're just stating, that it was a bait and switch that the state did upon us to basically say, you know what, we should not be held liable by our little lonesome selves because we did what you told us we could do. So if you told us this is what we could do because that's what the law said, why don't we come back and basically go after the state and say you're also liable for some of this stuff?
Two communities have done that and were unsuccessful.
So let's be the third one.
So I am using, this is my best advice in resolution of the matter, is to resolve it at this juncture for the amount that is included in the budget. That is my best advice.
Still a lot of money. $300,000 is a lot of money. So that's the way I see it.
We did not cave in any form or fashion. I'm sorry if that is the appearance or perception. This is the best move in this situation.
No, I'm not saying that we caved or we didn't cave. I'm just saying that $300,000 out of monies that we thought we were going to get for marijuana is a lot of money for us to take out of the coffers of the city and return to a vendor in this community when we did absolutely nothing wrong. We did what the state told us we could do with the laws that existed. Now, if the laws have switched or they switched, the bait and switch that you talked about was actually done upon us, I don't think we should be the only ones that have to sit here and say, we'll be happy to pay whatever money that we have because it's not fair to this city or to the taxpayers of this city.
We did not do what we should have done. I thought I said it, but I'll say it again. We did not do what we should have done in documenting costs. There has been a bait and switch related to the community impact fees, but not a change in the wording of the law. The law has and now it's been interpreted by a judiciary. That is where my advice is coming from, is the need to substantiate the cost is formal, and we have not met the burden. That's the advice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I could just opine a little bit on that, and I concur with you, Counselor. I mean, the McDuffie case, the Hancock case, the Webby case, they all started in Brockton, right? But you also have to look at the cost of money and to litigate when the damages are tough to prove and that there's already 2 court cases that have been decided by the other municipalities. We're putting good money into a fruitful effort. We would not prevail because of the past practice determined by the court. But I do want to say this, and I want to thank Megan Bridges, who is a phenomenal attorney and a better leader as well. Thanks to her, we were able to make this amount paid over time, because originally the thought was we were going to have to pay one lump sum to settle this. And Megan, to her credit, and Troy were in my office, and they said, no, let's go back and say, let's pay this in term installments. And the gentleman concurred with that. It's a ton of money. It's a ton of money that can help our roads and our students. But at the end of the day, the law department settled with all the other ones except for one on Oak Street, and they all paid us. So it's a slippery slope, but we would not have prevailed, and I stand by the recommendation of the attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Solicitor. So, Councilor Rodriguez, that was I was going to ask regarding this matter. So, I'm just going to follow up with a couple of questions, and I don't want to kill this, but
No, go ahead.
So, first of all, you said there's one that didn't pay, and which one? I know the mayor just mentioned Oak Street, but I'm not sure which one on Oak.
The old Doyles.
North Pearl, I made a mistake. Okay, so that, I just wanted to make sure, because I know the one in my ward, okay. And what was the reason that they didn't? I mean, they really didn't?
I'm not sure if I know the reason. It was just a refusal to engage in settlement conversation.
Okay. The other question I had for you is, you said that we didn't document. I know for a fact that the business that's in my ward, that's down the old Papagenos, which borders Council Lally's and Ward 6 and Ward 7, there was major traffic issues, and we had them in front of the Traffic Commission. So whose job was it to document when issues came up? Who was supposed to document?
I'm not sure if I really have a good answer for your question. I mean, that's not a directive that comes from me or my department.
Okay.
You know,
When I first heard about this, I was very upset, frustrated, because I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that supported the marijuana business coming into the city, because we were going to benefit. And I know you said we're getting some tax revenue, but we were supposed to benefit. This was supposed to make a huge difference, bring in some revenue to the city to help us out. And when I realized that we weren't getting these host community agreements, and now that we're paying, money back, it's just disappointing all around. And I would be all in support and going to the state. And I just feel like we're always being dumped on as a city. And it's just frustrating for us to sit here, and I know a lot of residents voted for marijuana because that was the reason. Why else would we bring in, we were taking on a lot that surrounding towns that surround the city weren't going to put up with. So I just want you to know I'm disappointed, and I know that, Councilor Rodriguez said that. So moving forward, we still don't have to document or do anything, since nobody, should we be documenting what the impact? What if something else comes up down the line?
if there are real impacts, then they should be discussed by the city. And if there are real impacts, oftentimes they involve the operators. So the city would have some knowledge of real tangible impacts, because either the License Commission or you all would have to deal with the operators. So I'd suggest that I don't know what tangible impacts there have been, because we haven't had to bring anyone in front of you all.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but a couple of the businesses, and one of them was the one up on North Pearl Street, came before us for a transfer of a license, and we've transferred licenses, they've transferred to other partnerships, and none of this ever came up. That's why I was a bit
None of what ever came up?
what their payments were to the city until just recently, till last year?
It's usually an item in the city's budget every year. And like I said,
I know I've questioned it outside of our meetings, and that's when I realized this past year when you answered me and Troy that we weren't getting the host payments. So I just found out this past year. I don't know how long.
that's brand new. That's when it occurred.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, like I said, I'm not going to kill this, but we're just really disappointed, and I mean, In Good Health was a good stand. I mean, I'm surprised that so they sued us, they turned around and sued us, or we just voluntarily said we're going to pay this back in payments?
Threatened litigation and a settlement conversation.
I'm really surprised, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Madam Solicitor.
Good evening.
I'll be supporting your budget as it is. I think it's an appropriate budget for the scope and magnitude of your
Thank you.
office. I also want to thank you personally for your help during this first term. I've called you quite a few times. You've always been there with very good legal advice, and I really do appreciate it. It's really benefited some of the things I've done in Ward 3 or trying to do in Ward 3. And I appreciate it and wish you more success in the upcoming fiscal year.
It's our
Thank you
pleasure.
very much,
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. So, see no further questions. Thank you, Madam Solicitor, for your time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right. Agenda item number 8, please.
Item 8, License Commission, Jeffrey Charnell, Chairperson.
Chairman Charnell, how are you this evening?
I am great.
Great.
Good evening. Good evening.
Floor
I'll
is
be
yours, sir.
brief, but I'll just make a quick statement and just go over some of the things. So, good evening, everyone, Council President, City Councilors, Mayor, and also Solicitor Bridges and our team. My name is Jeff Charnell. I serve as the License Commission Chairman, and in the role for the past 4 years, I was honorably appointed to the Commission nearly 8 years ago by this Council. We are a 5-member commission, a simple majority. Again, myself as chairman, Commissioner Charnell, Commissioner Jerome, Commissioner Landerholm, Commissioner Ullman, Commissioner Simpson, and our ultimate, Commissioner Gerald. The police department supports us with Lieutenant Farrell and 23 licensed agents. We are supported by the Deputy Fire Chief Weeks. And I'd like to publicly thank, lastly, Sylvia Carvalho, our executive assistant. Sylvia does a lot of work. We talk often, almost daily. Just real quick, I'll just go over some things that the commission has done as of late. Hosted a seminar in collaboration with the Brockton City License Commission, Massachusetts Beverage and Control Commission, the Brockton Fire Department, Brockton Police Department, and the Brockton ISD, and also the Law Department. The purpose of this was to educate liquor license holders on relevant laws, regulations, and compliance requirements. This event took place at the Buckley Performance Arts Center at Massasoit Community College on March 18, 2024. We are planning our next event. Love the counselors to support that. It means a lot to the constituents at large. And I hope that the seminars continue as I embark on a new chapter. The commission meets every third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. Currently we meet via Zoom. We ask that all applications be submitted 14 days before the deadline of our meeting. I'm just going to go over some brief applications that we renew and hold. All alcoholic license, all wine malt, all general on purpose, all alcohol club, all alcohol package, common victors, entertainment, juice box, and automatic music devices used in car dealerships. And we also renew the marijuana licenses every year. I've seen many of the counselors for one-day events, so we support the one-day all alcohol for nonprofits and the one-day wine and malt. We also are in charge of special events in the city, so if you see a large gathering of
usually sanctioned events, as the parade and such, that comes through the License Commission. And we also do outdoor dining. I can take any questions, comments, or concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Azak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioner Charnel. Quick question. I know do you have a number, like a total revenue of what comes in from the fees that we charge for licenses?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Council, our revenue, when it comes to licenses and permits, is categorized in a general category for licenses and permits outside of building permits. So I have the gross number for you, but I'm happy to give you the specific breakdown as well. We have that data. I just don't have it here.
That would be great.
But our general revenue number so far this year is $1,052,364, and that exceeds our projected number of $1 million for the year.
Okay, and that's licensing but you said it doesn't include the building
That's licenses and
department?
permits outside of building permits
Outside of
and
building.
wiring permits and those kind of things.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Charnel, and thank you for your service as the chair. I know that hopefully, the commission will continue to do great things, so thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Seeing none, that'll be the all for that agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Item number 9, Human Resources, Sandra Knight, HR Director.
Director Knight, good evening.
Good evening, Council President. Good evening, councilors.
The floor is yours.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have an open statement either, but
Okay. Councilors, any questions for our HR Director? Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Director. Good evening, Mr. CFO.
good evening.
We just talked, and I'll jump right to a question for the CFO. Full-time salaries in the department are up $120,000. What does that reflect?
So the staffing remains the same. The difference is for last year's budget, there was an adjustment, I think, in which salaries were billed to the Health Insurance Trust, and we adjusted that to more accurately reflect which people on the HR staff were actually working in a way supporting health insurance that could be billed to the trust. So the staffing levels are the same.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening,
Thank you
Councilor.
for being here. Let me see. On page 306, under Personal Services, there is a vacant position for an assistant director.
Yes.
That's funded but vacant, and that position was also vacant in FY25, last year's budget. And can you tell me why it has not been filled?
The position actually was filled last year, well, between January 23 and that person left of April 24. So that's why it probably wasn't updated in terms of the vacancy when the budget was done in FY25. For this year, FY26, we are currently recruiting. We're in the interview process now. For an
Okay,
assistant
so it will be
director.
filled.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And on the same page, down toward the bottom of the printed area, it lists part-time salaries, $20,000, which are up from $14,000 in FY25.
Yes.
And what is that for?
The part-time salaries, we do have 3 interns from Bridgewater State University that's helping us out with some filing. We have a big filing project we're doing. So I have this done in phases right now. So the first phase would be for all the filing to be filed in personnel files. The second phase would be to review those personal files for accuracy, making sure that they're in the correct places. And then the third piece would be, to archive the old files for all employees who are no longer here. And then the fourth phase will look at digitizing personnel files.
Okay. And so on page 308, you see under part-time salaries, this is an increase, quite a bit of an increase from $6,000. And that will cover the projects that you just set out?
Yes.
Okay. And then on page 309, under expense summary, you've got contractual union costs that are increasing $1 million.
Yes, I'm happy to answer that, Counselor. So, as we did a couple of years ago, so part of that funds payments to members of unions consistent with their collective bargaining agreements, but the increase of $1 million is essentially a placeholder. We've placed that $1 million in the HR budget in anticipation of settling the union contracts that are currently in negotiation, and so that money, by placing it in the HR budget, it will be available for transfer when those contracts are settled.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Darrencourt.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Director, it's so good to see you. Obviously, since you come back, I haven't had a chance to talk to you because I know the last time you were in the city. I just want to acknowledge, how great that you were when I was here back then, and obviously when I saw your name coming back to Brockton, and I think this was, an excellent choice, and of course the city of Brockton is again lucky to have you, and I've watched you and your staff and your level of discipline in terms of, doing your job, and I was very sad, when you left, and seeing that you are back in the city, especially during those, difficult moments, and I think that the mayor, did an excellent job having somebody like yourself, who has the ability not just to understand the complexity of the human resources department, also the ability to work with, all kind of people to making sure that things are balanced and stuff like that. In terms of your budget, I don't really have any questions, but I think that, it's important for me to acknowledge, who you are as a person, and also the knowledge that you possess in terms of your ability, to truly, bring the city back, to what it used to be in terms of like what has been going on within, our HR departments. And obviously we have some tough stuff in the city, but, I'm pretty confident having you in charge of that ship, knowing that your ability to work with your staff and obviously, your unwavering commitment, to the cause and to the city of Brockton and to every resident is something that, the city will definitely, benefit from. Hopefully you're going to be here for a long time. That's my hope. But, as long as that we can keep you happy. And I think that's one of my goals, to keep you happy here. And I think we're going to do really well. I just want to acknowledge, the CFO for actually, embark on that journey. And of course the mayor and anybody who actually, sit down and talk to you during that process, because I know that you had multiple choices. You could have gone a lot of places, and for people who may not know that, in a city our size, you definitely need somebody who's knowledgeable, okay, who's knowledgeable about, dealing with, diverse, issues and diverse people. And sometimes it's very tough, especially you as the boss, things are coming at you, left and right. And I think it's important for people to understand that. So again, I just want to thank you publicly and acknowledge, what you've been doing here. Because oftentimes people don't know. People just assuming that it's somebody sitting in an office and then wearing a suit and whatever. But, I just want to say this publicly, and I appreciate you, and thank you for your willingness, to come back to Brockton to work for our residents. And I just want to leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Councilor.
I
Councilor Tavares.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Actually, thank you so much, and for being here. Just to kind of address the same thing, the compliment, because I have been city employees. I know, which I still have respect for you, because you've been the tremendous, always advocating for staff, and then I wish all the department are doing the same thing you've been doing before, because you're the kind of person easy to solve any problem, easy to get to you, very understandable, easy to work with you, and I miss that so much, even though I'm not city employees, but I still have the respect. With your budget, definitely I am going to support this, And then I hope we continue to work with your employees, because in the day, the retirement when we're excited to come to work. The frustration when you feel like, oh my God, I gotta go because I gotta pay the bills. And then when I was work with you, I feel like I wanna come to work with the city every day. When you left, I feel I don't wanna come. Just to let you know. And then I hope all the department, whatever's in charge, to kind of work with the employees the same thing.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate it for your
In order to
service.
be successful, I mean, I have a great team, you know, and my colleagues are a good team.
I
So
know
we
you
work
guys
well together.
always do teamwork because I feel that part of the
Absolutely.
team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll wrap up this budget item. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Director. We appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time this
everyone.
evening.
Item 10, procurement, Michael Morris, Chief Procurement Officer.
Morris, good evening.
Good evening, councilors. I just have a brief statement. FY25 has been very busy with several multi-million-dollar projects. In addition to the annual DPW roadwork bids, we currently are finishing up the public safety buildings FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We also worked on the selection of a OPM, Owner's Project Manager, for the MSBA Brockton High School renovation project, and we're handling procurements now for the BRA, which is now in-house under the direction and guidance of the planning department. And we're also assisting the school department while they have been without procurement personnel. The FY26 budget request that you have in front of you is made up of mostly personal services with a small amount of funds for the purchase of goods and services, which is exactly the same as last year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Councilors, any questions? Councilor Darrencourt.
It's not a question, but it's more, as you can see, I'm keep on playing with this light because the light in here is pretty bad in terms of my skin complexion, which I believe I'll talk to the commissioner about it. But man, listen, you know, I've known you for a long time, and I've seen that your commitment to the city, you know, has not changed. And at the end of the day, you know, the job that you do, it may not be the most popular work, but I know it's crucial to, you know, the health of our city. So I just want to, you know, acknowledge this and thank you for what you do and keep up the good work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor, for the words, kind words. Thank you.
That's it, Ms. Morris. We appreciate you coming in this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
Okay.
Nice job, Mike.
Thank you.
Number 11, public property, James Pluff, Superintendent of Buildings.
Mr. Superintendent, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and councilors.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I'm pleased to submit my budget tonight for the request for the fiscal year 2026. I'd like to, first off, I want to say this is my 6th budget, and I've come and winged it for 5 years, and I decided to write something, and it's rather long, so I apologize.
Go right ahead.
All right. I'd like to highlight some of the important work that we've been able to accomplish over this past year, and which we hope to continue for the upcoming year. In code enforcement, our 6 sanitary inspectors and 2 ordinance enforcement officers have been very busy with apartment inspections, restaurant inspections, tobacco enforcement, market inspections, tattoo parlors, and general ordinance and zoning violations. As of recent, our department has teamed up with the city clerk's office to begin enforcement of car repair shops throughout the city. Enforcement has been so significant that we are in court every week with civil ticket appeals or civil enforcement actions with the city solicitor's office, and I believe the city solicitor mentioned that earlier. Over the past couple of months, we have also established weekend hours where we pair up 2 members of our department to have a presence on the street looking for violations. We are averaging between 25 to 30 violations each weekend, the larger 50 violations found last weekend alone. This past weekend, our team members visited Edgar Park where, with the help of the police department, shut down an unpermitted party where uninspected and unpermitted food is being sold. In addition, they had issued $6,000 in fines to tobacco establishments for violations of the tobacco control law. During these inspections over the past couple of months, we have traveled the city through all 7 wards. Buildings and permitting. I'm not going to read all these numbers. I have a chart in front of me just to give you an idea that single 2-family permitting has actually decreased over the past year versus the same time period last year. However, our commercial permits have increased a significant amount over that period of time, to just show the work of the planning department and the mayor's office in bringing commercial work here to the city. Our electrical and gas water heater is down a little bit, but our plumbing, gas, and sign permits are way up. Just to have a little information there. With our facilities, over the past year, in conjunction with the ARPA projects, our shops have been extremely busy installing flooring, painting, and updating the electrical wiring in the areas we are undergoing renovation. And just to give you an idea, we spent quite a long time in the city clerk's office. After we took out the ceiling, we realized there were years of sins when it came to electrical wiring. So our electrical inspectors, not electrical inspectors, our electricians spent a lot of time undoing that, what we call a rat's nest of wires. We're going to be continuing that here in the treasurer's office. I don't know if you saw the work on the way in here on the second floor. So we've recently completed the city clerk's office, and I hope he enjoys it, with new flooring and painting and carpet. And we're currently working on the treasurer's office. Part of these offices, we recarpeted the assessor's office and did a paint job in there also. While they're not busy working on this project, they are spread, my public property staff is spread throughout the city, working at the fire stations, the libraries, the DPW buildings on Montauk and Oak Hill, and working on maintaining the stadium complex, which I'm sure is going to be a topic of many questions later. My crew of 7 licensed tradespeople and 6 custodians have been working tirelessly to maintain the aging buildings within the city. Unfortunately for us, but great for him, my supervisor of building maintenance, Jim Burgess, retired last week. With that loss and a couple of volunteers, a couple of workers out on an injury, we are spread extremely thin. But their tireless attitude and love for the city has kept them busy performing everything I ask of them without complaint, or at least not within my earshot. My custodial staff has also been working at a fever pace. The 6 custodians split amongst days and nights attend to 8 buildings, as well as mow the lawns and weeds at the War Memorial Building and the Shaw Center. Over the next fiscal year, I've had 3 members of my inspections team indicate that they'll be retiring from their jobs, so there'll be a little bit of a challenge for over the next year. Each one of them has performed admirably for the city, and hopefully they will go on to a retired life that they deserve. Now that I've mentioned some of the highlights that we have going on in our department, I'd like to give you the highlights of my budget request. In my budget request, you'll see a very modest increase in purchase of services. These modest increases are mostly for the elevator repair and maintenance, will bring our budget back to a working amount. During last year's budget, both our services and supplies were cut to fit a tight financial situation. This year, we are looking to restore some of that lost funding. You'll find this in our request to increase our office supplies, building, electrical, and HVAC line items. This increase isn't simply about restoration, but it is a reaction to the soaring cost of supplies, which appear to only be on the upward slope. Part of this increase is also to help maintain the stadium complex. Overall, we are requesting a modest 4.5% increase in our overall budget, which I believe reflects increasing costs of both supplies and services in this day and age. I will now offer to take any questions.
Councilor Tavares.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Actually, I do have 3 questions.
Sure.
My first question, why you guys have so much money on overtime?
We have, in our overtime, we have, like I said, the 6 custodians. We have to cover night shifts, vacations, weekend events. The libraries, we staff with custodians during the weekend when they're open and when they have events. My public property staff of 7 perform all sorts of work, whether it be during the day or during the night. If the fire department calls and said something's broken, we'll send someone out middle of the night. If we have to extend our days to perform work for the facilities, we'll extend that time also. In addition to the public property side of the equation, I also have 6 sanitary inspectors, 2 code enforcement officers, 3 wiring inspectors, 2 plumbing inspectors, and 3 building inspectors. And all of those inspectors are on call 24 hours a day in case the fire department calls them out or we have some kind of calamity. And we're also sending these inspectors out now for 2 people on 4-hour shifts every weekend to try to find the things we don't see during the week. A lot of people do work on the weekends because they know we're off. So we're mixing up the days, sometimes on Saturday morning, sometimes Saturday afternoon, sometimes Sunday morning, sometimes Sunday afternoon, just try to keep it random to do that. So those are the reasons we do a lot of the overtime. That's the $150,000. The other $50,000 is for pool overtime, and I believe and Mr. Carpenter will be talking about the pool supply side of the equation, but my side of the equation is the operation of the pool. My staff members in the Public Property Division are pool operators, certified pool operators, and they operate both the Manning Pool and the Cosgrove Pool. And they do that throughout the night, throughout the afternoons and evenings. They get off at 3 on their regular job, but they're there until the pools close, or when they have to maintain the pools with, cleaning it, fixing equipment, filling the pool right now. We're actually working right now to fill the pools, and that takes a lot of water and a lot of manpower to supervise that.
Yes. Actually, I believe last year we have some of those conversations about the number because the number is still the same. Why can we use those money for hire more code enforcement? Let me tell you the reason why, because I've been code enforcement a long time since the Bill Carpenter. Actually, Bill passed, and then me and Sullivan take over. We have those discussions. 2 code enforcement is not enough for Brockton. I've been there. It's burning out. As far as you said, the issue is every day. The complaint is every day. People doing a lot of things like it so much. It was literally burning out. I was feel like, literally frustrated because, we got to do, nuisance order. We go after complaint. We have to respond quickly because if you don't, it's going to be issue with the community. And I've been asked since then, since I was employed, actually, even I've been city councilor, we need more code enforcement because even though I'm not code enforcement today, but I still fell for those code enforcement because especially myself, I send them a complaint. I think 10 complaints per day. And then sometimes even I feel ashamed myself. Oh my God, I don't want to feel literally pain in the ass a little bit because I'm always, trying to make them work. But I think it's not fair because in the day we're human, in the day we work for the taxpayer, in the day we need to find some solution or come out with some money or cut over time and to hire more code enforcement to provide better work for the taxpayer because we're not doing good in terms of, I'm talking about my work too, is we're doing terrible in terms of code enforcement, not necessarily because they're not doing the work, because we don't have enough staff. And then those I've been saying since I was employed. And then until today, I'm not seeing it. I'm still seeing 2 code enforcement. Actually, one was myself when I left. June decided to take over. It's still 2 code enforcement. I think it's not fair because we're human. And then the taxpayers paying a lot of money. Brockton's not looking good. I was driving surrounded like a Fall River. I even talked to code enforcement in Fall River. They have a lot of code enforcement. I don't know if you ever been there. Everything look like, very straight to the point because they have enough staff. We do not have enough staff. Like for me, to be honest with you, this year I'm just gonna be, last year I didn't touch your money much on overtime stuff, but this year I'm just gonna do so just until I see another code enforcement. I'm telling you the truth because I keep being asked over and over again. And I hope like you guys can, all the counselor, find a way to kind of, see if you can see more code enforcement.
Thank you, Councilor. 2 things about that. First off, I would love to have more code enforcement officers. I don't believe our budgeting right now is supporting hiring a staff. I'd have to defer to the CFO and the mayor on that, but I don't believe we can support the hiring of staff right now with today's financial outlook. However, the overtime itself, so we have a split department. I failed to mention in my thing here also the weights and measures is also in my department also. When I say split department, only half of my workforce is inspectors and code enforcement. The other half is construction and maintenance and custodial. So the majority of our overtime goes towards working on these buildings, working on the Cosgrove Pool, on the Manning Pool, on the facilities here in the city. Now, I'd argue if we're cut with the overtime, we're not going to be able to function the way we do in these buildings. We're not going to be able to have custodial staff for night meetings if we don't have a custodian staff. So those kinds of things will hurt the functions of our office.
Like, I know we not have a way or power to kind of increase the budget, but I don't know if CFO is going to be answering me this question because, let me say it again, I'm very frustrated to see those two code enforcement. And then, like I said, we're not doing good in terms of code enforcement. I know you guys try terrific, tremendously good job, but we do not have enough staff to complementize the taxpayers. And then, like I said, I have tens or more than 10 complaints I send you guys every day. I mean, it just does not looking good to us. How do we do in this case, Mr. CFO? I don't know if you can ask this because we got to do something.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Superintendent Plouffe, you and I exchanged some information prior to tonight's meeting, and I want to focus in on a responsibility that either fortunately or unfortunately falls under your department.
Yes.
And that's taking care of the Rock Stadium.
Correct.
I am absolutely disgusted with the amount of money that we are pouring into that stadium and have poured into that stadium. And you may have not have brought all of the spreadsheets with you. If I said hundreds of thousands of dollars, would that be a fair and accurate representation of this past year between overtime, building and grounds, equipment, electricity, water, sewer, whatever the expenses are there?
Yes, that would be fair and accurate.
Okay, and then I want to read to my colleagues an email that I got the other day because I requested information from the Law Department. Regarding your questions below, the past owner of the team, and again, this is all public record, Brian Kahn and New England Pro Baseball, LLC, breached the contract with the city. They did not make any payments toward the license fee. A complaint was filed in Plymouth Superior Court, which they failed to answer. I received the default today. The next step is to request a default judgment and assessment of damages from the court. Now, the current owner is fine. Brockton Sox LLC. They've issued a payment to the city for the first payment of the license fee. My understanding is that electricity consumption hasn't been paid. I don't know if all of the water and sewer bills have been paid. And again, Mr. Mayor, and I know you're what we would call a short timer, and I don't expect you to solve this problem. We might as well dig a hole with a front-end loader and just start piling taxpayer money into it up there. Let's sell the place. Sell it with a deed restriction. Do something with it. But we are not getting in return for the lease of that property what we're paying for it. And you and I wouldn't rent a house and then expend 10 times what we're receiving for the rent from the house. I mean, we just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
When is it going to stop?
So a couple things. Brian Kahn didn't just stiff the city of Brockton. He stiffed the Frontier League. That's why they took it away from him. He stiffed Stonehill College. He stiffed WB Mason. He stiffed a lot of people. As a mayor, I authorized Stacey Verdi to bring suit against him, and we did. If you Google him, he has more troubles than a lawsuit from the city of Brockton, so I'll leave it at that. He is no longer affiliated in any way. The new ownership are legitimate baseball people, and they are paying us, like you said. I have asked numerous high net worth people to buy it. I would like to dispose of it. I've said that for many, many, many months with Troy. We've reached out to people that have contacted us in the past about professional baseball, and they're not interested in buying the asset. They wanted the team there. The next mayor, whoever he or she is, or she or he is, and might have better luck than I do, but I will tell you right now, I've gone to a few of these new games. The attendance is not good right now, I'll be honest with you. The Frontier League is committed to come back for another year. But at the end of the day, it's a collective. I'm a taxpayer, you're a taxpayer. It is an asset. for over 20 years when Mayor Yunus was there. We have put a lot of money into it, including ARPA money and CARES Act money, but also taxpayer money. And so at the end of the day, it is our asset until someone does buy it from us.
No, I understand that. It is coming out of his budget, though.
Yep.
And, maybe we need to look at something different. Someone said to me, well, can you knock out the right field wall and put in a regulation soccer stadium, which it's a big sport worldwide. I don't know. But something has to be done about that, or we're going to continue to bleed the building department, and I don't think we're going to get a return on our investment.
The new ownership group, again, the Janacheks, Jim Rice and Sean Riley, are contemplating turfing it. I told them we don't have the financial means as the city of Brockton to do that, but that would open up a lot of different other possibilities for sports, soccer, field hockey, rugby. They're even talking about curling. So we'll see. I will tell you, I was up there this morning. I'm up there at least 3 times a week talking to the principals up there. I want to thank both Jim and Pat Hill. Pat Hill's folks have been up there cutting trees down that have been in the retention areas for probably 20 years. It just doesn't look good. Perception's reality. So until the city of Brockton has a bona fide buyer, it's our asset. We have to make do with what we have. But I can't tell you at the end of the day that we have contemplated selling it. There just hasn't been any prospective buyers.
All right, well, councilors, on another night, I think a resolve to study this or have it referred to the Economic Development Committee to take a look at it, because we're losing the battle. We're losing the battle right now, folks. And I think we need to work with the mayor, the incoming mayor, whomever that is, Superintendent Plouffe, and we need to put a stop to it, because we're just not being fair to the taxpayers with the expenditures of these sums. So thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, the other thing, if I could, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, I heard exactly what Councilor Tavares said, and I concur. But just if we go back 24 hours ago, the question was about having custodials at the library because the bathrooms are deplorable. We're going to need additional overtime to pay those folks for the summer months. So if you cut the overtime, we're not going to be able to achieve what we talked about last night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Farwell. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I just wanted to comment on one thing. On page 412, your part-time salaries are going up substantially.
Yes.
What's that for?
So the part-time salaries, we have an intern in our office. So we pay that intern out of the part-time salaries. In addition, the zoning board members are all paid out of part-time salary money also.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, if since the council adopted the stipends for each of them.
Well, as you know, I'm a regular caller because I hear from so many residents about various matters that are within the purview of your department. And so I'm grateful for your department's help, your help. In particular, I'd like to mention the Chief of Inspectional Services, George DePina, and James Doucette. I find them both to be very even-handed and fair to everyone, but yet determined to be effective in their jobs. And they call me back. So I compliment them and your department for this effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor.
And I would say that, Councilor, Mr. Chair, Councilor, you're absolutely correct. Those two gentlemen are amazing when it comes to code enforcement in our office, as are everybody in our office.
Right.
But the two of them have really spearheaded a lot of issues.
We're very fortunate to have them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I concur. Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll join my colleagues in expressing appreciation for you and your team.
Thank you.
I do call you a lot, and you're always at the other end of that phone, even though I sometimes find myself calling after hours. I go, oops, sorry. So I do appreciate that and the department's responsiveness. I know that a lot of the code enforcement challenges you have on your plate require a lot of time and a lot of effort. Gone are sort of the frontier days where we could, just say, hey, knock it off, and that's it. But where that's possible and where that's applicable, I know that your team does that, and I do appreciate the work that you've undertaken. I had one note, mostly for the mayor, is about the Rock Stadium and the contract. I believe the contract is up in December. And I think it's very important, based on some events that happened earlier this year, that we be very specific in any renegotiation about the role of Brockton Public Schools in maintenance and operation of the facility, and more importantly, about the rights and access to the field granted to Brockton Public School students, specifically Brockton baseball and Brockton softball, if they choose to access it, because I know that was a bit of a challenge, determining obligation and who has to do what, and that's not on your department. I'm just bringing it up because this is where the stadium falls.
Sure.
I think that's important to undertake. And I would echo my colleagues that, whatever we can do to enhance and empower code enforcement is necessary. I know we talked about, after the budget, maybe taking a look at some ways to enhance ordinances to improve their ability to act quicker.
Sure.
I did have a question about other contract services.
Yes.
It took quite a drop from a little over $400,000 to $100,000, and it's maintained at $100,000. I was wondering what caused that reduction.
Certainly. Was it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we had a major drainage issue over at the stadium, where we had to redo a drainage. We had a company to come out, dig it up, put drains in. They put a retention pond in the back. That was all under one contract, so I wanted to make sure all my monies were in one space, and under other contract services. So I had other funds available during that budget year. So all that money went into that one contract. Actually, it was two, because the right field wall also fell down, so we had to pay for that. My typical line item for other contract services is around that 100 mark, and that's for various things, such as a scanning project for, we have a company that does the water system upstairs for the air conditioning. We have a technology company that does things for our computer systems for HVAC and all the other buildings. Things like that are other contract services.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll end with one. This is the only plug I'll do for it, all budget, Mr. Chairman. But I think that your department is the most relevant. I really think the city should make another concerted effort to adopt, or we have adopted to, enable or enact Mass General Law, Section 37M, and to merge administrative functions between the city and the schools where applicable. And I think your department's a prime case for that, given the tremendous workload that you've been given and the not so tremendous amount of people that have been tasked with that work. The people themselves are tremendous, but they're being asked to cover a lot of ground. But I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Texiera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Bluff. On the salary, on the part-time, on the, go back here. It's on page 411, general fund. The part-time, I know the full-time, you named everyone that works under you with their salary, but on the part-time, it doesn't seem, it just went from yeah, I went from 13,000 FY25 to 49,000, 50,000 for FY26. But who's the part-time? Do we have an idea? You know, who's?
The request for the increase in the part-time salaries is due to the fact that the board, you just say the zoning board of appeals, right? Members that are now compensated are included in that. And we can give you, Counselor, a breakdown of which the part-time employees are and what makes that up. That level of detail is not in the budget, but we're happy to provide it to you.
All right, appreciate it. And Commission, what can we do to expedite the permit? Any investor that comes into the city to invest, they're bringing money to the city. But we need to do more to lead them to the right direction, to make sure when they go out for a permit, if they don't, it's not everyone's going to have a clean sheet to say, you know, I need A to Z. But if we can work with them, I think that will give them that courage to say yes. At least they're working with me. I'm not saying that you don't, because every time I called you, I called Forts, you guys are there to answer my question and work with me. But I had a few complaints. One of the investors reached out to me and said, pull a permit for 6 months. I know it might be his fault, but it's A+ if the commission or your department from plumbing, heating, from plumbing, wire, and rough work with that builder to make sure it expedites the permit issue and the permit, so they're not wasting months. Because especially when you go for a loan and get a loan, you want to expedite your project. And just for you to, I know you guys do a great job, but it needs to be an improvement on the permit. Because this investor really, he was not happy.
Yes, as Counselor, we do a significant amount of permits every year. And every individual permit is an individual case. Every building, every project's different, and every person we interact with is different when it comes to trying to get that permit out the door. And if you have an individual specific case that is that someone's having a problem with getting their permit, we are welcome that phone call from that constituent or anyone else that might be knowledgeable of that we can work through with those individual cases. The majority of our permits are getting out within days of us having the ability to get them out. Our process right now, depending on what kind of project it is, could mean going to different organizations. If we get a permit, for an example, of a house that's in a floodplain or of near some water, we're going to need the Conservation Commission agent to sign off on that. If it includes any fire department equipment inside the building, the fire department's going to have to sign off on that. So there are a number of, depending on the kind of project, there are a number of sign-offs that have to occur before we can finally sign off and issue that permit. In addition to that, my deputy is here. He wanted to come and see the proceedings tonight, but he does the issuance of the permits. And when he goes through these permits, a lot of times, if they're contractors, they're missing workers' comp, or their license is expired, or their site plan is a photocopy of something like off the web, different issues. So I'm saying is that we expedite, we get permits out the door all the time. Some permits are out within a day of receiving the application. It's the ones that are deficient in some way that take the longest. And once we receive the information and we respond back by email. Sometimes they just sit there, and we don't receive a response back from the client. So if there are for anybody out there that has an issue getting a permit right away, within a day or two, if they don't think they're getting the response, just give us a call. We'll research that particular permit application, figure out exactly what the problem is, and respond back. I can tell you that I have in my queue, I look at every non-roof window siding permit and non-weatherization permit first to make sure it's paid. And then once it's paid, then we go through the review process. I can't tell you how many permits I've denied after about 25 days for non-payment of the building permit fee. They need to pay that fee in order to be reviewed and issue that permit. We have so many permits that come through that we deny for different reasons. That in any individual case could be a host of those reasons.
That's when you get a chance to work with the individual and say, let's say you're going to need A, B, C, D.
Yes.
Versus, just months going by and not getting back to them or not getting the permit. And it's about collaboration.
I completely agree, Councilor. If that person didn't have their permit within a week and it was stuck and they didn't get the email or something happened, they can just give us a call and we'll research that information. They shouldn't wait. I would not say wait a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months before they start calling us and say, where's my permit? What's going on? That will happen if someone's just waiting for something to show up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Going for a second round, oh, did you? Sorry, I did not have you. Councilor Davenport.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Well, obviously, some of the questions that I have been asking by some of my colleagues, but I just want to make a statement before I ask a couple of questions. I did not know Councilor Farrell actually liked to play soccer in regard to, the stadium. Earlier, he mentioned that he would like to see we put a soccer field in there, and I just want to say publicly that I am interested in having it in there too. To go back to this, we and I spoke about code enforcement. Obviously, I know that you have a very small staff. I would like to encourage you to somewhat like pushing some of that, because you got people out there just putting trash out there as if, it is nothing. And especially with some of the multi-families, and we know that some of the, private investors have been buying them left and right. And at the end of the day, they have tenants in there, but they are not cutting the grass, and it looks like a mess. And I think it's unfortunate, because technically you have to deal with the company as opposed to the people that are living there. And sometimes you will see you are in a very nice neighborhood, and that multifamily grass is kind of like going to the sky. And I know it might be a little bit hard to get a hold of these people. This is something that I hope you will send, some of your guys out there to enforce that. As you can see, whenever I'm speaking through your screen over there, you don't have one over there. The light in here are pretty bad. One of my colleagues saying that we are thinking about it, and I think that for some people it may not be a problem, but in regard to my skin complexion, I think that some LED light would be appreciated, because sometimes people tell me on the street they can barely see me in here, and this is not a joke for me, and I meant that. I know that back in 2018, 19, and 20, I was in this council. I acknowledge it, and I hope that will change, because some of these lights are very old, and they're pretty red light in terms of like the color. And if you take a look at the screen, and like I stated, you can barely see me. In regard to your overtime, I will support your budget. I will not vote in favor of cutting it. That you can bet on that one. But I see that you requested about $200,000. Given the fact that you don't really have too many code enforcement, based on that $200,000, can you hire someone more as opposed to keep on paying overtime and to make the difference?
Well, the overtime that I have, there's two line items. There's $150,000 for general overtime, and then $50,000 for the pools, Cosgrove and Manning. That $50,000 is for the installing of the pool, opening the pool in the spring and closing it in the fall. The $150,000, the majority of my overtime is spent on my public property and my custodial staff, not the inspectors. There is a portion that's spent for the inspectors for overtime, but the majority of it is the public property side of the equation, not the inspection side.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So based on, for the record, as we speak, you only have 2 code enforcers, right? You only have 2 people doing code enforcement.
Yeah.
There is only 2 people that are considered ordinance enforcement information officers. That's a lower paid salary than the sanitary inspector. Sanitary inspectors, which I have 6 of those, have all the powers of the ordinance inspector, but also more powers inside of the buildings. So ordinance inspectors only go to the properties on the outside of the building. And then on the sanitary inspectors do inside stuff, restaurants, apartments, but they're also required to do outside enforcement. And one of the things that my chief of inspections and I have been really pushing on my sanitary inspectors is you don't step over a dead body to give a speeding ticket. So if you are showing up at a property and there's outside trash, don't just ignore that just to go in and do the inside work. That you have to also address what's on the outside too. So we're pressing that onto our sanitary inspectors, that they are also code enforcement people, not just the ordinance inspectors. The ordinance inspectors are a lower paid position than the sanitary inspectors. And in the ideal world, I would have all sanitary inspectors doing all the jobs, not just segregating someone to doing outside stuff and inside stuff. So, yes, the answer is yes. I only have 2 of those particular positions. In an ideal world, I'd like to take those 2, make them sanitary inspectors, and then have a more robust group.
And I believe the reason why you only have 2, it's because of funding. Is that correct?
I think that my whole staffing level is due to funding. Yes.
So as we speak, despite of the amount of money that you are requesting on your budget, you are still understaffed. Is that correct?
I've said it every year since I've been here. If you want to double my staff, I'll be more than happy to take more than that. But yes, I would say that that we are always, as managers, looking to have more staff to handle more of the load. I do believe we're understaffed, but that's how we've been for many, many years now.
I mean, obviously, Mr. Commissioner, I don't really know your staff, but I mean, you know this job better than I do, and obviously, I cannot sit up here pretending that I know what you're doing, but I can only acknowledge, some of the stuff that you and I spoke. In page 409, under administrative assistant, I see that you have 1 vacant position. Are you planning on filling that position, or is it still vacant?
Yes, Council, thank you for
vacant. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Last year, that was left on in my budget, but unfunded, because we had financial issues last year where our budgets were cut a lot. That was a position that had been in our office prior, but the person had left and we weren't able to fill it by the time budget time came around. So the position was left in, but it was left unfunded. And this year, the mayor saw it fit to fund that so I can have another administrative assistant in the office.
And I can see that the difference between the administrative assistant 1 and 2, it's only 10K. And you do have 2 administrative assistant, level 2.
Yes.
So technically, last year, you did not have an administrative assistant 1. This
Correct.
This position was vacant due to funding, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if this budget pass, you will be able to fill that position.
Yes.
Okay, so if you go a little bit further to page 412, what is let's see, I see that during your FY 2024, your hazardous duty, all I can see there is a dash. I mean, I think the CFO can educate me in terms of what that means, and also separation cost dash 2024, and also what is this one? Unused sick leave. And as we speak, for hazardous, you are requesting 13K. For separation cost, you are requesting 80,000, and for unused sick, you are requesting 6,000. So what is the difference between that line item for this year as opposed to 2024?
I can answer that. So the difference, Counselor, is that first column for FY24 was the actual amount spent. So the dash would just mean that there was no money spent for those purposes in FY24. So the $13,000 for hazardous duty this year is consistent, for next year is consistent with what was budgeted this year. The reduction in separation costs was just due to a conversation with Jim during the budget process to estimate what would be spent during the year. And I can tell you, if you just give me a second, what we've spent so far this year.
And just a note, Council, while the CFO is looking that information up, we did decrease the separation costs during the conversation. It wasn't until after the conversation and the budget was produced that I was informed that at least 2 of my members are going to be retiring in this fiscal year. So we underdid it because we did not have that information. Now that information is coming up, we may have to supplement that with full-time salaries.
Mm-hmm. So for hazardous duty so far this year, we've spent $1,846.08. That's as of this report was run, what's today? The 17th, yesterday. And separation costs thus far this year, we have spent $27,604.
Excellent. If you go a little bit below that page, electricity, I see that, you know, in your FY 2024, you ask 110K, and this year there's nothing. So technically, you will not need any money for that?
Well, that's correct.
Page 412.
Yes, that's correct, Councilor. Last year, the CFO's office and the DPW department worked out a deal to use unused solar credits to pay for electricity. And so they've taken it out of our budgets, and they're using solar credits to pay for the electric bills.
Okay, thank you. In regard to your stipend, last year you requested 700, and this year there's nothing. So technically, you don't plan on giving anybody a stipend. Is that correct? This is still page 412 under full-time salaries or part-time salaries.
Yeah.
So I made a broad mention of this in my opening remarks, Councilor. We have moved the stipends all departments into the part-time salaries line to better reflect how that money is spent.
So the reason I'm asking those questions, and of course, Mr. Commissioner, and thank you, Mr. CFO, is just in case that you guys come back in front of the council and asking for more money, given the fact that, you know, as I'm looking at this, you know, it is empty, and obviously, you know, I'm not an accountant, and I do not have the ability to truly understand, you know, the complexity of these numbers, and I think that it is important for us to ask those questions. But I appreciate the fact that, you know, you take the time to acknowledge them. And to, you know, to finish my questioning, in regard to some of the things my colleague stated, Council Teixeira, permit. I do have some, you know, people calling me in regard to making those requests, and you and I, you know, had this conversation in the past. In the city of Boston, if you have every single document that you need, you can actually pull a permit in 72 hours. And the same permit in Brockton can take at least weeks based on conversation that I have with people. And obviously, people may not understand, what goes on into making sure that those permits are coming out, to the best of your knowledge, that they will not have an impact. But I hope that your office will work in collaboration with anybody who may have a desire to either come to Brockton to open a business, building a building and stuff like that. And I think that would be, a good way of approaching it, because we are in need of revenue. And if somebody is willing to come down here, to open a business, I think it is in our interest to making sure that he or she has the ability and also the access that they need, to create this environment. I trust your judgment, and I want to thank you publicly. You and I believe from January to present, had a couple meetings in regard to issues that people are having either on the street, at the house, and whenever I reach out to you, your office has been nothing more than helpful, and I appreciate that. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I will leave it there. Thank you, Mr. CFO. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Your part-time salary increased over last year by 278%. And yet, when I looked at, maybe I'm missing it, my eyes aren't working all that well after getting hit on a head-on accident by a state police. Maybe I can't see it too well, but I don't see anybody listed as a part-time employee in your roster. So why such increase, and where did that actually go, or who is your part-time people?
Well, my one part-time person is an intern from, we have two part-time people. One's a vacant abandoned building inspector. That's a part-time position, but it's going to be paid out of the vacant abandoned fund. And the other part-time is a intern who we had hired and was working with our sanitary inspectors, she's a health student, public health. We do not have that public health person down on the budget.
But why is that?
So, in addition to, because a couple of you have asked about that, Councilor, the Budget Director did provide me some detail, and we can certainly in future documents list them. We haven't typically listed the part-time employees because they're fleeting and they come and go, the interns. In this case, it is 6 zoning board members and 2 part-time employees.
Yeah, Mr. CFO, in the library budget, we list all the part-time positions, so why is it that in some of these other departments we don't list them?
I would say because the library part-time employees are permanent part-time employees, whereas generally in the other departments, those part-time employees are fleeting. Interns come for a season and they go.
Well, I understand the interns, but I'm talking about somebody who's, because you said there's a part-time person who's dealing with the vacant and abandoned properties?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of that. If there were a permanent part-time employee that was funded by the building department, that should be in the budget, and I'll review that higher with the commissioner and see what that's all about.
Yeah, and the Councilor and CFO, that's a temporary position, not a permanent part-time position.
It should be listed anyways, because if it's something that we're paying out of the city's budget, either way, it should. Going into, and the last time that you were here, we had a discussion about vacant and abandoned properties. You weren't exactly sure what those numbers were in terms of the total number of vacant or abandoned or properties that should be demolished in the city. Do you have any concrete number or numbers that you can share with us in terms of, because I think we should be able to say, we here, the mayor or the CFO should say, the city of Brockton has 1,999 million whatever abandoned properties versus Well, it's 300 and something or 400 and something, because it makes a difference, in terms of what that something is. Because I honestly think that we need to be a little more forceful in terms of what we do with these vacant and abandoned properties that just, basically sitting here saying, well, we got these abandoned properties, we got these vacant properties. And I think we're losing out big time in taxation. We're not getting enough taxes from these properties because they're not being kept, so they're not being taxed at the levels that it should be. So what are those numbers, if you know what they are?
With the vacant abandoned, I was told by my inspector, we have about 135 currently. He's whittled down the number. He's gone by all the properties that we had on the list and erased ones that were occupied. And he's like I said, he's part-time, only less than 19 hours a week, probably more in the neighborhood of 12 at times. He's going to be going street to street throughout the city looking for more vacant buildings right now. So we don't have a complete exhaustive list of everything that's in the city because we don't have anyone that's on the street all the time looking at those, but he will be moving on to those types of, that type of job, looking for more vacants. As far as buildings that we to demolish, we only have right now 2 buildings that we know of that have that are kind of dangerous, and one of them we have in court, and we are actually, July 1st, we're going to be going back to Superior Court for an injunction against this person to have that demolished, and that's on Legion Parkway. Most other buildings are not dangerous enough in that respect. We've been keeping up with them over the years. I can't tell you, I need more than 2 feet and 2 hands to tell you how many buildings I've torn down in my time here. So we keep up on these buildings. It's not like some cities and towns where you drive through and you find vacant buildings sitting behind fences staying there. So we're proactive on the ones that have to come down.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I had heard that, we have, several hundreds of thousands of dollars in those funds, right?
Yes.
So why are we not using those funds to perhaps hire a dual person, somebody that does vacant and abandoned properties 20 hours a week and does code enforcement another 20 hours a week, where we can leverage what we have instead of just saying, well, we only have, a part-time person doing 12 hours a week in vacant and abandoned, but we have the funds. Why not utilize that to create a slash position where, you're vacant and abandoned for 12 hours and then a code enforcer or whatever else we might need, the custodial staff that we talked about yesterday in terms of having one additional custodial staff that we can put in the library and kind of cross-share with City Hall and some of these other things. But to be a little smart about what we need to do and stop doing these business as usual things, because those things aren't really working all that well. We're not doing service to the vacant and abandoned job because it's only 12 hours a week, and yet we're still missing out on other things that we could actually be doing. So why aren't we cross-pollinating some of these positions and you don't have to go far. I mean, we have those funds in those accounts. That's what it's for, to utilize that.
The current balance, Counselor, in the vacant and abandoned building fund is $1,040,064.
So if we took $50,000 out of that to create a custodial position whose job it is to do the library in the PM hours or in the afternoons, and then during the day or the afternoon hours do vacant and abandoned, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Correct?
Yeah, I think you would have to have the position primarily dedicated to vacant and abandoned, but I think we certainly could be creative.
We could. Okay, so that's going to happen. I just wrote it down here. Going to happen according to the CFO. Okay. Another thing that I think, I don't know if he's here or not, Councilor Durancourt brought up the light issues in this beautiful, probably the most beautiful chamber, council chamber in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We do have some monies in the cable revolving account, quite a few dollars from what I understand. And since this is a cable-related activity, every single time that we meet here as a council or as a committee, subcommittee, or whatever, it's cable-related. So we can utilize, and it's in the contract, because I know that contract pretty well, it's in the contract that we can use those funds for any cable-related expenses. We went as far as, once upon a time ago, as hiring somebody in the mayor's office to be the liaison between the city and BCA with those cable dollars. So I'm pretty sure in the equipment portion of that contract, it would also state that we can utilize those funds to make cable access possible to the ratepayers in this community. So I believe that we could work with our clerk and who else we need to work with to utilize some of those funds to make this room a little more appealing to the eyes, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I brought sunglasses in a way with readers on it because my eyes are killing me because of these lights. So, with the technology that exists today, I think we can spend a few dollars to bring this up to a certain level, and it does not have to take an act of Congress to get this done, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Council, for those remarks. I'll leave it up to CFO to talk about the actual funds in the Comcast account. But I will mention that these hallowed grounds, being the council chambers, are under the control and custody of the city clerk. And I will work with the city clerk.
Well, he can't do anything without money.
Nope.
So he's willing to do it, because I've talked to him before, and he's like, anytime. But how is he supposed to do it when we don't provide him the funds?
The currently about $939,000 in that fund.
Okay, let me write that down as well. Will be done per CFO. Okay. I'm actually doing what Dave did on that movie, Dave, so every time somebody brings up a saving, I'm going to put that down. Mr. Chairman, thank you much. And Mr. Clerk, you heard it here first.
If I could?
Yep, absolutely.
If I could, and thank you for bringing that up, and just so you know that I am working with Mr. Medeiros from IT about some work. We've had Okers in about some tweaks to the setups that were put in here about 3 or 4 years ago. Also, out of Mr. Clarkson's office, Dr. Clarkson's office, the grant writer is tracking some grant applications right now, because we need other work that needs to be done at the time, some repairs on some of the beautiful painting, and also hopefully we'll be able to do more than just fix the lights in here. But again, and Mr. Medeiros and I have talked to, the money will be coming out, if we make those tweaks, will be coming out of the cable advisory cable account, because that is, you're exactly right. It's directly related to, there's a lot of money sitting there that needs to be used for the public, and this is the perfect use of it. Now, again, we can't do the other work with that money, but we are looking at some grant money to get the rest of the work done and that needs to be done in this. And I agree with you. It's the most beautiful chamber in the, I believe we had a major visitor from the Boston City Council here last night, and she certainly was impressed by this chamber as compared to where they meet in Boston. So thank you. I just want to let you know on that. And Mr. Medeiros has been a big help.
I'm just saying, the funds are there. Let's utilize it for that purpose and get this thing done before some of us leave this chamber.
The thing is, we also need it to be designed well, though, because we don't want to just have what happened with these.
Well, we'll have to put a spotlight on Councilor Durancourt.
No matter where he goes, the halo will follow him.
I'm still getting used to the fact that there's a movie about Dave. I didn't
You've never
know.
seen it?
Famous.
You've never seen it?
It's a great movie.
I guess not. Thank you, Councilor. Are there
Mr.
any
Chair?
councilors who'd like to go up?
Oh, one thing, I just want to speak one more on the council chambers here. I didn't mention it in in my presentation, but a year and a half or 2 years ago, we did a ADA self-evaluation plan for the city. And in amongst that was some deficiencies here in the council chambers regarding an active listening device system for those that are disabled. We have put in through the grant writers a grant request with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for ADA upgrades. And one of the things that would be addressed if we receive this grant is the active listening devices. And if the cable funds are still available and they could be used for that purpose, maybe that could supplement our ADA funds also.
Fair enough. Thank you. All right, are there any councilors who have not yet spoken on this? Going into a second round, Councilor Tavares, followed by Councilor Durancourt.
All right, just to close this, I think we have a good news about the fund, and then I hope we're gonna be using this, because in the day, we're here for the taxpayer. If we work together as a team, as a partner, then we can do better job for the taxpayer, because the taxpayer is paying a lot of money, they're burning out, they're not getting nothing towards the tax. And then the second, I'm gonna give a shout out to your, to your chief. Actually, I have a lot of compliments about you, especially every time people get in trouble, you always work with them closely to solve the issue. I think you've been doing tremendous good work, and that make a huge difference. Like, that's why we need to work with the people, because in the day, we are human, and we like to be treated like ourselves, and I totally appreciate it. And then let's try to make it better for your staff and for the taxpayer, for everybody. And then we're here to represent them, to advocate for them. No matter what, we're here for them. They hire us, they pay us, and then we're here to work for them. And then I hope you guys making good collaboration with us to make that difference for taxpayer. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Durancourt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To acknowledge what the clerk stated, yes, we did have the Boston Council president, in the chamber last night, and the first thing that she acknowledged was how pretty that this building is. And of course, I am so happy the fact that my colleagues are in favor of changing the lights. And I hope when that moment comes, we will have a celebration, and Council Farrell and Moses and Susan DeCastro will be more than willing to pay for it. I'll leave it there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
That's on record. That's going in the minutes. All right. I see no other hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner. All right.
Thank you, Troy.
You bet. Good job.
Item number 12, Parks and Recreation. Tim Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, councilors. As is typical, if you would indulge, a brief statement, actually more brief than Mr. Pluff's. I'd like to take a moment to thank my staff from both the Park Division and the Golf Division for another year of hard work, dedication, and service to the city. And of course, a huge thank you to my administrative assistant, Renee Brown. Improvements continue to be the theme with the completion of the Cosgrove Pool, the finishing of the ARPA-funded projects, park projects, and the park system as a whole continues to be strong. The 2024 golf season was the highest grossing on record, with over 32,000 rounds played and a gross income of $1.746 million. The goal set by the Finance Department for golf receipts for the current fiscal year was set at $1.7 million. And as of Monday, the course had grossed $1.647 million, so I'm confident we'll reach the goal by the end of the month. As you know, this year I did have to come before you for a supplemental budget request and some additional funding. It was the first time in my 14 years, and to be honest, it bruised my ego a bit. The cuts made in the FY25 budget were deep and are unsustainable. So the budget you have before you this evening funds the department at a level more closely mirrored to the FY24, restoring many line items, which you will see some significant increases, and those are due to the cuts made in the FY25 budget. Hopefully this eliminates the need for additional funds in the coming fiscal year. Thank you very much for your support. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Councilor Durancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioner. You and I spoke about your budget and stuff like that. So given the depth of the cut in your budget, and I know you just acknowledged some of it, how confident are you to run your department by losing so much money?
So our goal in the submitting of this budget to the mayor and to the CFO was to essentially restore many of the line items to the fiscal year 24 levels. That was a budget that we were successfully able to navigate. And so I'm confident on many levels that we would be able to again navigate this proposed FY26 budget?
You know, I just want to acknowledge this. I mean, if somebody goes to DPW and, of course, our golf course, I mean, since, you know, the late Mayor Bill Carpenter, and obviously he put a lot of money into this, I have to acknowledge it, you and your team have been doing an excellent job in terms of maintaining it. And obviously, I'm not a golf player, I pretend to be, but to the people that I talk to in regard to our golf, you know, field, it's one of the best, you know, in Massachusetts. I mean, this is the conversation that I have. And to see that, you know, so much money are coming out of your budget, I'm a little afraid that we may not be able to maintain it. And hopefully, you know, you and the mayor and the CFO will be able to work something out and have enough fund to continue the excellent work, the amazing work that you and your staff, you know, have been doing. But I do have a question, though, despite of, you know, the situation you are dealing with. As you know, we have a population that plays soccer. And earlier, you know, one of the council at large, Council Farrell, acknowledging it. You have a lot of people that play soccer, but unfortunately, you know, we mean the community, you know, doesn't have a place to go and play just for fun. Obviously, some of them sometimes go to different places whereby they have to be kicked out by virtue of not having that field. Do you have any consideration in terms of like what they can do to find a field to play? Because I know that we have a lot of baseball fields that are not being used as much as they used to. But I think it would be great, or it is in the interest of our city, you know, to have a field at least some people can actually go there and play soccer. So you don't have to go deep, but I just want to ask you that publicly. And if you do have ideas in terms of like what we can do to making sure that there is a place for that sport, which is huge, I would greatly appreciate it.
So as our mission statement reflects, Councillor, we are always trying to evolve the facilities available to the residents of Brockton to reflect the needs of the city. So I understand where you are coming from with that request. Soccer fields are big. It's a lot of area. I don't have many parks that have the area to accommodate a full-size soccer field. But again, I would be, I completely understand the request. And I think working with the state, we have gotten some funds to do some improvements to specific soccer fields. The Park Commission has always stipulated that youth organizations are to be permitted before adult organizations. Traditionally, many of the soccer fields in the city are permitted to those youth organizations for season-long usage, unfortunately, not leaving much time or space for adult organizations.
Yeah, and the reason I ask you this, I mean, you and I spoke about it, but it's the fact that, I mean, I know, so I play soccer too. Lately, I haven't been able to do it because of time, but, you know, we do have a population that does play, and at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, they go to a field and they are asked to leave. And obviously, like you said, maybe they have to leave because we have a little leagues that's going to play there. So, you know, it's not really a question. So what I hope to see is that even though we are not, you know, in the position of building a soccer field whereby the city can, you know, give it to the community just to play, but I would hope that we can find a space for people to actually play. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, it's not like building it. It takes a lot to build a soccer field. And obviously my colleague acknowledged the Walk Stadium. And I think the city of Brockton has limited capacity to actually take advantage of that. And giving the upcoming, you know, World Cup in 2026, obviously we are not part of it, but I wish, you know, that field was, you know, able to even play one games. And that would have been something that could expose Brockton to the world capacity. But we are not there yet. But, you know, I really hope, you know, one day that the city of Brockton will have a soccer field whereby we can actually organize championship. And the population that we are having in the city right now, you know, they play soccer. And this is something that can not only use as a sport, but also use in a way to bring people together. Because music, you know, sports, food, you know, does have the ability to connect people. And I think this is something that would be in the interest of our city, in the interest of our community, to build that bond. And I know that you have the desire. I'm pretty positive your team and yourself do have the ability to maintain it. And when that moment comes, I would be more than happy to see it, and hopefully that will bring a nice smile to Council Farwell. And I said it earlier, he didn't hear me. I didn't even know he plays soccer, but he spoke eloquently in regard to having that sport at the Work Stadium up there. So we'll see what happens from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tavares.
Yes, I thank you so much for being here. Actually, last year, we talking about to hire more people. Do you do it?
I'm sorry?
Last year, we talking about to hire more people. Do you do it?
So we do have an employee that has been out on workman's comp for an achingly long time. And we are hoping that that position, that employee will be sort of settled out of the workman's comp situation. That position is proposed to be funded in this budget, which would allow for the addition of an employee.
Okay. And then second question, I don't know if you know anything about Edgar Park. My question is what time, do you guys, do we have open or close the gate? Because I don't know if you're aware about the tremendous problem
So
over there.
yes, I have received calls in regards to Edgar's, including from Senator Brady just recently. Chief Perez and I just the other day had an extended phone call about it, so we are going to be continuing to work together to monitor and try and get those gates closed in the evening, with my staff opening them up in the mornings.
Like your department is in charge to open and close the gate, right?
So technically the park is open until dusk. I don't have staff in until, dusk this time of year is 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I don't have staff in at that point. So just like the gates up at DW Field Park, they're closed by the police. That would be how we would have to operate. Otherwise, I would be paying, at this point, a callback, I think, is 3 hours minimum of overtime.
As far as the police officer was there yesterday after the call from Senator Brady, actually, we was there. But they was saying they don't have no access to close the gate. And then this is the problem we have, with all the neighbors, and plus we have a lot of elderly live around by. It's just they feel irritated, they want to move out. It's literally stressful myself because they even think that I'm not doing nothing, but not necessarily. I'm going to try to delegate with all the departments. But I think if we kind of figure out the way someone is going to be in charge just to close those gates overnight, that make our life so easy because those people is on my back 24/7, even nighttime. Yesterday was 11 o'clock. I get a phone call, 10 o'clock after actually Councilor Shell is dropping him off. I get a call from Senator Brady. I gotta just go, and the police show up. Thank God, but he does not have no access to close the gate. Let's try to work on that situation because it's very complicated. And like I said, we have most elderly people over 65 live around by. Please, I appreciate with the bottom of my heart if you kind of facilitate that work for me.
Yep.
And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minichiello.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
Like many of my colleagues have said on a number of occasions this evening, I wish that we had more funding to provide your department. I really do believe that well-maintained parks, well-maintained fields, well-maintained cemeteries reflect very positively on a community, a city, or a town. That investment for the benefit of citizens of that community with facilities that are well-maintained, I think reflects positively in terms of a community headed in the right direction or maintaining the right direction. So I do not undervalue your department or the investment that really should be given to your department. You do the best with what you have. With respect to Ward 1, my interaction with you has always been very cordial and very helpful and supportive and positive. For example, we are going to be dedicating the Ash Street Harold Bent playground with the ARPA funds, And when I talked to you about that playground, you were open to making additional changes and additional improvements on top of the ARPA money. Talk about being resourceful, placing pieces of fencing from the Cosgrove pool that were not being utilized to assist with the soccer that's played there on weekends so that the areas are blocked and the soccer ball is not going to be flying from one end all the way down to the other. And like many of us have just stated, Councilor Darencourt, Councilor Rodriguez always talks about soccer, and that's just the reality. We have a lot of people in this city who enjoy soccer. And when I talk to you about, the field, the baseball field over there, it seemed to me that it's a little bit underutilized. You were open to making some changes so that that could be used as a dual field, so that baseball can be played there as well as soccer. So for example, so that the people at home know, Mr. Carpenter basically said, hey, we can make some improvements or adjustments with the steel fence that's out there, make that a retractable or movable fence, and that way when people want to play soccer, there can be a slight adjustment and kids and people can play soccer. It can go right back to being a baseball field for kids that need to play baseball or want to play baseball. But my point is this: you're always open and always cooperative in terms of making improvements with what you have, and I appreciate that. And again, like many of us, I wish we had more money to give you, because I really do believe that maintaining our fields, when you go by some other cities or towns and you see their recreational facilities in top-notch condition, it's reflective on that community and what they value. And those types of improvements really reflect positively on a community. So hopefully we can figure out ways to get you more money, maybe more grant writing or something like that. But I appreciate what you do and your staff. I noticed some of your staff, if we could have 6 more Russell Munis, how much do you think you can accomplish?
We would get a boatload accomplished. It might get done with a bulldozer, but it would get done.
Thank you very much.
Russell, now just with the unfortunate passing of Howard Newton, the city's engineering superintendent, Russ Muniz is now the longest tenured employee with the city of Brockton.
Wow. One of the hardest working ones.
Absolutely.
As well. Well, thank you, and say hello to your crew.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner.
Evening.
Thank you for responding to the questions I emailed to you. And I'm writing Councilor Minichiello's coattails. On page 365, you're listing under park playground improvements an increase of $15,000 to $20,000. So what are you hoping to do with those funds?
So, right, so part of that goal is to restore us to our original. But, we have, as you know, some older playgrounds here in the city. And those older playgrounds need repair, whether it's new slide parts, new swings, new chains on swings. So that line item typically goes to make those repairs throughout the park system.
It doesn't go very far, $20,000.
Doesn't.
But it's a beginning.
Yes.
You also have another item down toward the bottom.
Councilor, if I can just supplement
Yes.
Tim's answer, and I think it's relevant to what Councilor Minichiello was saying as well. I know you all know this, but for the benefit of the public that's watching, recognizing how important parks are in the community, the mayor and I dedicated $4 million of the ARPA money to improve parks and playgrounds in the city. So the commitment is real, and I think a $4 million investment in the parks and playgrounds is unprecedented in Brockton. And so I think that's important to highlight as we're speaking about the condition of the parks in the town.
Yes, in Ward 4, you've redone the Buckley Playground off of Perkins Avenue, and it's just
Gorgeous.
wonderful.
It
It
is.
really is.
Yep.
Now the old Gilmore is looking for some help, but I know someone who'll continue nagging you about it. So there's another line item toward the bottom of page 365, summer playground improvements, and that's a wonderful increase to $47,768. What are you hoping to do with those funds?
So again, that is a restoration to the FY24 levels. That line item will go towards typically infield mixed, fertilizer, seed, all the things that when parks are being utilized during the summer months and are most active and get the most usage, which generally causes the most wear and tear.
Sure.
That's where those funds go. So a lot of that money goes towards, like I say, seed, fertilizer. Seed and fertilizer are incredibly expensive right now. And infield mix is not cheap either, but that's where generally that line item goes towards.
That's great. That's just great. Thank you for your hard efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Councilors, I believe that's everyone. Quickly, Counselor, please.
I certainly recognize the good work that has been done with regard to getting monies for new playgrounds. Absolutely, and like I said, we're going to be on the 27th at 11 o'clock dedicating the Bent Playground, and I'm sure Mr. Clarkson will be there as one of the guests. And there has been some nice new playgrounds built with the ARPA money. But we all need to figure out a way to maintain those playgrounds, to maintain what we have. The older fields that we have. Sometimes I drive by fields and I say, wow, I don't know when that field has ever seen a bag of fertilizer, because of other fields in other communities, sometimes you'll see them, they look pristine in terms of the quality of the grass, no weeds, that sort of thing. So all I'm saying is the mayor and his staff have done a great job with bringing in ARPA money for playgrounds. However, we really need to maintain what we have in terms of the older existing playgrounds and fields and the cemeteries as well. The cemeteries need to look out of respect for our citizens and friends who have passed away. Those cemeteries need to look good. And sometimes I say to myself, wow, it should be a little bit better, but.
Well, great segue, Counselor.
Thank you.
Yes. Agenda item number 13.
Item 13, Cemetery. Tim Carpenter, Superintendent of Parks and Cemeteries.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent.
Good evening, councilors. Again, if you would indulge me just quickly, I would like to take a moment to thank the staff of the Cemetery Department for all of their efforts over the past year. Theirs is a difficult job, and all involved perform with respect, diligence, and understanding, and for that I am appreciative. Cemetery Department performed 271 burials so far this fiscal year, with 260 at the Melrose, 8 at Coesit, and 3 at the Union Cemetery. We continue to strive to keep the grounds in good shape, and I believe Memorial Day weekend was a prime example of the efforts the staff makes to this goal. With that, I am available for any questions.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioner or Superintendent, you probably know I'm a Melrose a lot more than I care to admit. I'm up there at least once a week, with all the funerals that we actually have had from our communities up there. And your staff up there, Eric and the three, I now know them like they're household names, Eric and the 3 staff members up there, they're phenomenal for the work that they do. And they just do it very respectfully as well, with, for the community. But you know what? They need help. When you just stated that they actually have done 276 burials this year so far, I figure an average double grave is around, what, 2,500 or so?
So the current cost for a double is, yes, $2212 with the.
Yeah, when you add it all up, it's around $2,500. So that comes out to about $690,000, at least in my, Brockton High math here, So when you figure that out, that department basically kind of takes care of itself, plus does a lot more in the eyes and the ears of us here in this community. So, because in conversations with the guys at the cemetery, one of the things that I brought up to them is like, you know what, they want to be able to do more funerals, but they can't with the limitations of what they have. You know, there's no way that 4 people could mow all the cemeteries in this city, opening up the graves, be present to, you know how at least my community is when it comes to funerals. Sometimes they want to sit there and wait for the body to be, you know, dropped into the grave, lowered into the grave. And these guys have to constantly stay there, and they stay there the whole time that they're doing that. But they could use some help because they could do more. And we brought this up before in terms of, you know, even some funeral homes saying, you know, there's times where we can only do, you know, 2 funerals a day, and sometimes there's a need to do maybe a 3rd one. But they can't do it based on what the restrictions that they currently have in staffing. And to be honest with you, when you look at the size of these cemeteries, you know, with 3 people operating in them, you know, it's incredible the work that they do. You know, it's not easy, and here I'm probably getting closer to the grave, talking about a grave, you know, but it's not easy for the work that they actually do around those stones and some of the other stuff that our folks leave around the cemetery that they have to constantly do. So how do we go about getting them some help? Because it's not like we have to physically take funds from the general fund, because they actually are a fund-producing group. So the more burials that they do, the more income-generated funds we actually have to probably pay for those salaries. But in the meantime, provide that much-needed service to the community, because it's not just about, you know, just to give you an example, sometimes somebody will say, hey, can I have a funeral on Friday? They already have 2 scheduled, and they can't do a 3rd one because time does not allow them. These guys come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they got to be gone by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're not doing anything in that, you know, anything after 1 o'clock or so, you're not doing it. See, I'm speaking from the cemetery like I'm a staff member there now, you see? So how do we go about getting them some help?
Well, I agree. And first of all, let me say I appreciate your compliments to the staff there, and I agree wholeheartedly. Those 4 employees are dedicated and courteous and get it. They really get it. Let me clarify one thing. So if a person buys a plot for $1,000 for a single, $1,000, let's just ease of math. 2/3 of that $1,000 goes into a perpetual care account. 1/3 of it goes into the sale of lots and graves. So the sale of lots and graves account is something that I will probably be coming to you relatively soon, because we need a new backhoe. And so in order to utilize those funds, obviously go through the CFO's office and the mayor, but then we come to you to allow us to use those funds for that purchase. The portion that goes into the perpetual care account is invested through the treasurer's office, I believe, and then we receive interest payments on it to perform perpetual care work on overtime, or so it goes to somewhat supplement the budget. The only thing that really goes back to the general fund are the opening costs and the costs for the liners. So far this year, that's probably somewhere around $415,000. So I agree with you. I would love to get more help. As Mr. Condon used to say, a $60,000 a year employee actually costs the city $200,000. That's what he used to say, or $160,000, because there were the additional costs of retirement and benefits and whatnot. So, hey, if somehow we can work together to try and get 1 or 2 more guys up there, that would be great. I guess I would also mention to you that in terms of the perpetual care work, We do have a line item here. It's listed as other services. We utilize the compensated work therapy program offered to Veterans Affairs. So right now, we currently have 3 veterans that come up and perform just perpetual care work. And we pay them an hourly rate. The VA Veterans Industries technically invoices us. They front the payment to the employees. They invoice us, and we reimburse them. It's absolutely incredible program. We've had guys return for 2 and 3 years through that program. We have a permanent employee that started through that program. It's a great program, and it does provide a hugely beneficial service to the city and to the department. So if we could find some way to get another guy or 2, that would be great. But again, I'm not the overall budget guy, I'm just these 2 department budget guys. So I would look forward to working with anyone to see how we could possibly do it.
No, the reason why I bring that up is just out of customer service. You know, to be able to tell a family, if you need a funeral on a Friday, we can do a funeral on a Friday for you. That way you don't have to wait until next week in order for you to do a funeral. And you know how hard it is when you lose a loved one, in the sense, and you got to wait 3, 4, 5 days to bury your loved one, you know, because they cannot do any more. I mean, it's not humanly possible to do any more than they're actually doing with the situation, especially when you have the funerals of the sizes that, like we have.
Right.
You know, that the whole cemetery is taken up, in the sense, it's not like you can hurry people up and move that along and stuff, so.
And in a scenario like that, Counselor, it would probably, my preference is to have no less than 3 guys to perform a burial. With 2 individuals, you can do it. It's just, from a safety standpoint, that helps me sleep at night, it's 3. So you would have to really almost hire 3 extra guys and stagger shifts so that you might be able to work later into the day, instead of absorbing significant overtime costs.
No, but I mean, that's something worth looking into, because it does make a difference in people's lives. But another thing that I just wanted to bring up, and I think I brought this up to you last year, is at least at Union Cemetery, like when you walk around that cemetery, and I have some relatives in there as well too, you walk around and you see a lot of open spots. And we had talked about maybe finding some interns somewhere in one of these colleges or some things like that that can actually help us in the mapping of the cemetery. You said you were looking into possibly, you know, having, because that's an older cemetery, it's easier at the new one, but that's an older one, so it's kind of hard to figure out exactly where the graves are. But I think you've got that pretty well under control in terms of knowing who's buried there. But I'm talking about the open spots, because we're running out of, again, here we go with me talking like I'm an employee of the cemetery. I know we're running out of space at Melrose as well. Probably when some of us actually end up there, we might be sitting in the edges, in the sense. So is there a possibility that you can kind of look into that, along with, you know, we've got some great grant writers now in the in city government, in the sense that can help us maybe perhaps look for some funds, some things that we can do in terms of having somebody come in and see if there's added spaces and stuff at these older cemeteries where we can utilize the spaces a little bit better.
So I guess there's 2 answers to this question, sir. First of all, I am actively pursuing, once the new fiscal year starts, a new cemetery software. And what they actually do is they bring in their own drone and they fly the cemetery utilizing our existing maps and our existing lot cards, puts it all into a database. We'll know exactly who's where and what's available. And they could do that at all our city cemeteries. It's not inexpensive, but it's still, it allows maps to be linked to specific sites, so you can get GPS directions specifically to your lot. Okay. It's a great software. May have to pare it down a little bit to get it more cost-effective for the department itself. And I think the other part of that answer is we are also still actively pursuing the expansion project along Pearl Street. at the Melrose.
So in your guesstimation, when will we run out of space at Melrose?
I think the
'Cause I think Gene and David was asking a little early because I have to start planning for them as
So
well.
I think we probably have 3 to 5 years left just in the CG lot. And I think if we can get the expansion project done within the next calendar year or so, that should be about another 700 or so plots. So that'll get us some significant time.
And then what happens? What happens to Brocktonians? Where do we go?
The cemetery's property does extend almost over to the Burger King right there on the Stoughton line.
Okay.
A lot of it is wet, so the reason that we've pursued the 2 areas that we've identified for expansion is because they are relatively easily accessible. I feel like that the area that sort of is over by the Burger King there, you would need an additional entrance. So that's a much greater cost to that project.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little on the funny side for us to talk about this, but this is actually something that, you know, if we only have 5 years left and you've got a city of 100,000 and growing, what are you going to do in terms of providing a place to place some of us?
Somewhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and again, please tell the folks at the
Absolutely, sir. I
cemetery
appreciate
my appreciation for their work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, there's no more, it looks like no more questions on this matter. That does end the agenda for the evening. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Councilors, yesterday we got out of here about 9:30, 9:40. We're around that time this evening. City Clerk would request that he go this evening on his 2 matters, both the City Clerk's office and the City Council. We expect that to take no longer than a few minutes. That will lighten the load for tomorrow. So I'm going to ask him to come forward and if just indulge us to have 2 more agenda items this evening.
Just a point of information, if it's posted as
You'll need a motion to take it out of order. It's all one agenda, all 3 nights, it's okay. But you need a motion to take it out of order.
I understand, but if we've posted it to the public that it's going to be discussed tomorrow, then I'm concerned that we will be changing the posting that appears on the city agenda page, Mr. Clerk.
Up to the will of the council, but I don't believe the agenda is strictly what we read at the beginning of the night. This is what's reasonably expected. With a motion to take out of order, I think you'd be fine, but that's up to the will of the council. We can do it tomorrow night. I'm just looking to help everybody out here.
Motion to take item, day 3, item 19 and 20 out of order.
It's a valid concern, but I don't think we're in any danger on that.
We do have legislative counsel here, if you would like her to opine on the issue.
I would. I think, I mean, just to be, I don't care whether we do it tonight or not, folks, but if we post something on our agenda page and it indicates what's going to be heard, and we change that, I'm not sure we're on solid ground, but here's the person who will know better.
So in prior years, you have posted each night. This posting is what you see in front of you, every department head. You're just adjourning at different points in the agenda. So you're capable of taking an item that's on your agenda and moving it up. It's very different than how we posted it previously, which we posted these departments on night 1, these departments on night 2, these departments on night 3. We have posted everything in one agenda, and you're just adjourning at each item where you see fit.
Well, you know, the vote can be whatever it is.
All right, thank you for that,
Mr. Chair,
Council.
Mr. Chairman, on that motion.
On the motion.
If we could actually, because I sense the concern that Councilor Falwell has. So I'd like to see if we can change the motion and just hear the city clerk's agenda and then hold ours for tomorrow night, because at least we're not kind of rushing our own personal
Well, you're also not taking
Budget.
any action this evening.
So,
You're only getting, but at this point, we're already used up the time I'm trying to save
I
you. We
know.
might as well just adjourn and come back tomorrow night.
you know what I mean?
Let's just do it tomorrow.
There's a motion on the floor.
Would you withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Do we need to withdraw the second?
There was
I had
no
the
second.
No, there was no second.
There was a second.
If there was a second, whoever
Moses
seconded, would you?
seconded it.
Okay.
I did.
We'll withdraw. All right, councilors, then that ends our agenda this evening. I declare this meeting adjourned.